Back from the dead.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're all invited to go fucking mental.
Back from the dead.
Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. It looks a little strange today because I have Shaylee here hanging out. And it's your first official stream. This is a paranormal podcast for those of you that are brave enough to join the circle. And you accidentally chose a topic that we had to unpack that took a week and a half to dig through it.
Did we stay up all night researching? Maybe.
Endless documentaries we've been watching. In fact, we just finished another one literally right before we came on the stream. There's a lot to unpack here, so I'm going to kind of give you guys... sorry, I forgot that the camera moved. There's so many subtitles here of how we're going to unpack this, so I'm going to go over that. It's probably going to be longer than normal, just as a warning. So we have Ed and Lorraine and their sort of background, the actual movie. So if you don't want to have a heads up on you haven't seen the movie and you're upset by it, don't listen.
Spoiler alert.
Big spoiler alert, because it was The Devil Made Me Do It. The movie just came out. When did we say? July 4th? Or I'm sorry, June 4th?
June, yeah.
It was very inaccurate. Let's just be real. It was shot beautifully, but it was inaccurate. We're going to talk about the movie. We're going to talk about how misconstrued. Oh my God. It has taken us days to figure out what the actual story was. We still don't even know all of the pieces, but how it's been misconstrued. Then we're going to talk about the true story behind it and what we did finally find out. You should see my notes. I literally have my phone with notes and the laptop full of notes. That's how many notes there are. Then we're going to talk about the rocking chair part and what it is. What's the real thing? I feel like there's some misconceptions behind that, and people aren't clear on that. I've been witness to the rocking chair. I've been in the same room as the rocking chair. You've worked with the rocking chair. We've talked about our opinions on it, and I think we get along on what we sense from it. And then sort of our final thoughts and verdict of this whole thing. Understand that this is not just a chat about the rocking chair. We are unfucking this.
A full synopsis.
It is a court case, a court hearing, Ed and Lorraine, it's a lot of shit. So whoa, you know what? We have 8 water bottles here. We're ready to do this. It's going to be a lot, so expect us to tangent. This is Shaylee's obviously first official podcast. I'm really excited that she's here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Ghost Girl Diaries, Shaylee in the house. We went and saw the movie, what was it, 2 nights ago?
Yeah.
Had some experiences from that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because people have been saying that there's something... all of the Conjuring movies, though, they're something's attached to it. Something's attached to it. Sometimes I believe that. Sometimes I don't. I have opinions on this one since I experienced some stuff as well. And yeah, we literally, this crew effort was one night. We were all up till 3 or 4 in the morning, all 4 of us, texting group chat about this is how committed we are. Kat is the closest to Connecticut, and she was literally willing to get in her car and drive 3 hours to Connecticut. It was really bad. She's it's fine, guys. I'll just go to the library and I'll just go request the court documents. I'm there. It's totally fine.
Honestly, I would have been guys, I'm on it. Hopping in my car right now.
Kat knows all of New England. She travels she's from New Hampshire, as we all know. She knows Vermont very well. She knows Massachusetts. She has family in Maine. She's been to New York many times. She has family in New York. She always says Connecticut has a very strange energy, which is where this took place. Ed and Lorraine are from Monroe, Connecticut. And so I was kind of concerned with Kat going to Connecticut because I believe her when she says the energy is strange. I believe her. So, where do we even start? If you are asking questions, you can feel free to. Kat and Elfie are going to be trying to answer as many questions as they can while we're live. But we're going to pretty much just start this and keep going with it. I knew they were going to start popping up. Kat's not live because next week is her week. So she'll be in next week. So Ed and Lorraine. So let's chat about that first. We're on TikTok. If you're not following us on TikTok, make sure you're following us on TikTok. It's going amazing. We got some interesting comments from some of the videos that I was posting regarding Ed and Lorraine. There's a mixed bag with paranormal investigators. And so I wanted to go ahead and address that immediately. And then I want to sweep it under the rug so that we can kind of go into this open-minded and like really critically think. Like that's what all the streams are about, critically thinking about each topic. Ed and Lorraine have a interesting background, as we know. Some people would call them the godfather, godmother of the paranormal. Other people would not. Other people would say they're scam artists. I'm not sitting here telling you what to believe. I will say that Elfie has been with us for a minute now, and she's worked with Lorraine on many occasions, and I have only heard wonderful things, and I absolutely trust Elfie with my life. And she's obviously a library of knowledge. In fact, the biggest thing I envy of Elfie is that she got to work with Lorraine so many times. So this opinion doesn't include Elfie either, because Elfie, I didn't even talk to Elfie about this. So because Elfie has worked with Lorraine, that's a total separate entity. Now, as for me having an opinion from the outside, I personally believe Lorraine was very authentic. Do you find her authentic?
Yeah, I do. I feel like she has a very good heart, and she, she had a mission,
Mm-hmm.
and she was, she put her heart and soul into it.
Mm-hmm.
The other partner may be questionable a little bit, but I feel overall they did have good intentions.
Well, and I do believe in her gifts. Elfie's witnessed her gifts before, you know what I mean? Like, so Lorraine, I'm fully convinced that, like, of the Catholic religion, of her, Catholicism knowledge, like, she really did want to help people, and she truly did have, like, psychic mediumship, clairvoyant gifts. Now, with that being said, with Ed, if you're talking about, do you believe them? With Lorraine, 100%. With Ed, I think he is the questionable partner. Why is he the questionable partner? A couple of reasons. One, I do think that he was an opportunist. I've said this hundreds of times before. I think that when he saw that his wife had a gift, he wanted to, and obviously even from a couple of experiences they had with helping people, I think that he wanted to turn it into a business. In a way, you can't blame him, because if it's something that's profitable, we would all do that as paranormal investigators, right? So in a way, you can't blame him. On the other side, did he maybe take it too far in some cases? Absolutely. Did it really need to be plastered all over the media and turn into the circus that it was? Didn't need to be, but he wanted the money, and then they got book deals out of it, and then they got movie deals out of it. So, I mean, opportunist, businessman, possibly a little bit of a snake, possibly, for sure. Now, on the other side of that, as we all know, about 7 or 8 months ago, there were some court documents released where Judy, their daughter, had to respond to some pretty heavy criticism as far as Ed was a possible pedophile, living with a 15-year-old homeless girl who ended up taking care of Judy and was sort of Judy's second mother. Supposedly she got pregnant several times. That's all in court documents. We've released that before. If you don't believe me, go find them yourself. It's very easy to access. So was Ed's character questionable, being a pedophile, and now that stuff's like out there? Yeah, I would say that he's kind of a sick mofo, in my opinion. However, I don't think that Lorraine should be discredited because he was a POS.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have your opinions on it, fine. But I think Lorraine was doing what she would probably call her God's gift of, like, helping people. Mm-hmm. Ed, I don't... First of all, let's just put out there that I do not agree at all when someone says they're a demonologist. Anytime somebody says they're a demonologist, I'm like, oh, okay. Because in my opinion, if you're really practicing, like, I don't want to say practicing dark stuff. Well, if you are, then you're a Satanist, first of all, or something of that nature. But if you are a demonologist or someone who's trying to be knowledgeable on the other side, in my opinion, you are like of the most holy trinity there could be, which is like a father, a bishop, something practicing in the church. Because if you're trying to practice, you know, combating warfare, spiritual warfare, that's how you're going to use it, not by like getting a bunch of knowledge from books of a demonologist. And Kat and I have debunked that before too, where Kat has totally torn apart like the Catholic Church, because she grew up in the Catholic Church, and like the Bishop Brian thing from Ghost Adventures, Kat like sets her off through the roof. Somebody's asking about Ed being a pedophile. I'm not going to go into that because that's a whole nother story, and I've already done that. So look on our channel for another podcast, or I think we have the podcast up live on like Spotify, iTunes. I found the court documents where basically there was a legal debacle going on where this girl that Ed had picked up at 14, moved her in as like a live-in girlfriend / babysitter. She actually this girl lived with Ed and Lorraine till she was 36 and had a few pregnancies by Ed. There was a debacle going on if she deserved some of the money from the Conjuring movies. I'm not going into that because that's a whole nother circus that we already don't have time today, you know what I mean, for that. So, but yeah, it was sad. So if you want to look that up, Google, look for the research on that, because that's a whole other thing to unpack. Okay, now we're going to jump into the movie The Devil Made Me Do It, released June 4th. This is obviously the series of The Conjuring. They've done the Annabelle, they've done the Nun, they've done all of those, 2 Annabelle movies, right? Mm-hmm. So the movie comes out. And this stream, by the way, is not inspired by the Haunted Museum here in Vegas with that item, although that item ties in. The reason we wanted to do this stream today was completely in lieu of the new movie coming out. What you saw the movie first?
Yeah.
Were you like knowledgeable on it before you went to see it at all? Because I really wasn't. I'm going to be honest. I wasn't knowledgeable.
Yeah, I watched the movie the first time and I thought it was great. I mean, obviously it's a movie, so things are going to be exaggerated, but I think the storyline was pretty accurate to the real life story. Mm-hmm.
Other than like the woman being like a Satanist or whatever, or like
other than
there was some dramatizations, but they do have. I will say, whoever that director of photography was, I'd like to hire him in the future, because chef's kiss on some of those cinematography shots. There were some shots that were like, an ode to Exorcist, Psycho in the bathtub, and also The Shining, where he was dragging the sledgehammer at the end. So there were some really cool shots in it. Now the movie, this is once again spoiler alert. Basically, there's this family that's like randomly moving into this house, is how it starts, and this little boy is sort of being affected by this energy. Like, he goes and sits on a waterbed, and the thing comes through the waterbed, pops the waterbed, and he's like horrified. And slowly over time, this little boy becomes possessed. The movie happens faster than what it played out in real life. So when I was able to get the actual story, I was like, okay, we have like dates, and now it makes a lot more sense to me. The demon supposedly then is passed on to Artie in the movie. Artie basically is drinking, creates a crime by stabbing him, and then he's found wandering like possessed on the streets by the police. The police arrest him. The Warrens get involved now, obviously, like helping doing exorcisms and whatnot. And the Warrens go to the house saying like there's something wrong with the house. They crawl underneath the house. They find this cursed object. Lorraine's a clairvoyant. She has to like feel the object and try to trace who this is connected to and who has cursed the family. So this is not true. This is going off on a tangent. This is the Hollywood side. There was no cursed object under the house.
Well, there was a room down in the cellar that was locked, and nobody could ever have access to it. And Debbie's dog was like trying to get into that room.
But the demon came from the first house that was a rental. So we still don't even know, like, there's some dots that still aren't connected. We'll get into that. I mean, it's a very confusing story. So that's why I'm breaking it down piece by piece, because you're kind of like...
It's a lot.
I think what Hollywood took like, pieces from sort of everything. They also made Ed Warren have heart attacks in this movie. He did not have heart attacks in the 80s when this took place. His first heart attack was, 2001 or something?
2001. Mm-hmm.
So they kind of just smushed a bunch of the Warren stuff together and made one movie. Once again, dramatizing it. So, but the movie version, there's this cursed object underneath. They trace it to this woman who's basically essentially doing, not black magic, like she's doing ritualistic Satanism in this underground tunnel area. They find out who it is, and she's trying it was good. It was shot beautifully. It was scary as hell. Did you think it was scary? I mean, it was good. Like,
I thought it was really good.
Believable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it was believable. It had mixed reviews. I'm not really sure why. From a paranormal perspective, like, investigator, I was like, this is badass. You know what I mean? Like, this is good. This is worth it. The end, basically, Lorraine says she's seeing her clairvoyance, and the way to break the curse is they have to, like, tip this Satanist, she has, like, an altar set up table, and that's where she's been conjuring and doing all her spells. So it turns, and then the demon comes basically after the altar is broken and takes her life because she wasn't able to give a life from one of these possessed people. So it's kind of strange. That part was a little hard for me to follow, but the rest of it did make kind of sense. They did take factual events and put it together. It just wasn't the whole factual event.
Well, the Satanist was performing the rituals, and she needed to sacrifice 3 souls. She had 2. Arnie was going to be the 3rd. So they wanted to destroy her altar so she couldn't finish the spell. And since her altar was destroyed, she was the soul
3rd.
that needed to be,
Right. And then when they had the demons come out, they were legit. Like, they looked legit. Like, I mean, it kind of freaks you out because you think, like, you know, we get shadows cast as investigators when we're investigating, and we get, like, stuff on the SLS cam, but we never really see the face of whatever it is.
Those faces, man.
And to see the faces, not obviously it's Hollywood remakes, but you're like, what if that was what I was literally in the room with? You're like, whoa, like, it's dark.
Well, even the documentary that we just watched, David describes this beast as having jagged teeth and pointed ears. Imagine seeing that at your doorstep. I can't.
I don't think I'd
It's
be an
terri-
investigator
it's
anymore.
terrifying.
I don't think I'd want the gift of, like, clairvoyance and, like, mediumship. I think it would scare me way too bad. So it ends with the altar being destroyed. The woman gets murdered by the demon, and basically Artie goes to court for stabbing his landlord. Now, in the movie, they say, okay, we're not guilty via possession. That was not true. We'll cover that later. They were not allowed to actually use that possession in the court case. The judge threw it out immediately. And it basically ends with him sort of walking away from this murder, and then they sort of live, like, their happy lives, and that's just sort of it.
Yeah, I think he was charged with manslaughter, and I think he was sentenced 10 to 20 years, but he only served about 5 because of his good behavior.
And they said the 5 in the movie, so they did keep that accurate, and that was a fact in real life as well. So there were some things that were real, some things that were not real. Now, you were telling me that there were online forums of people saying, like, they were being followed home after the movie and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I don't know the exact details of that, but a couple people said that they had paranormal activity in their house, someone unalived themselves after watching it.
Supposedly. We don't know if that's factual.
Yeah.
It was on TikTok, right? Or something.
But you had some car trouble. And that's like a theme, a recurring theme is, like, whenever anyone mentions this or, goes into detail about this story, they have electrical problems.
Yes, that has been reoccurring. That has been something, and you saw that because you were telling me about it before. So after the movie, Shaylee and I went and hung out in the parking lot. We were talking about this because, like, at the time, I don't think we knew it was going to be this invasive, what we had to find. But, like, we're talking in the parking lot, and I said to you, you were talking about investigating. We were talking about investigating, and I was like, you know what? I think the reason that I have a thing for the dark side is because the dark side is afraid of me. And I've said that publicly before on the channel. And I was like, the dark side's sort of afraid of me. I don't know if it was because I was baptized when I was born. I don't know what it is. But when I go to dark things or dark areas of a location, it repels me, essentially. And I was like, I would like chase it and it goes away. And so we were like laughing and stuff. And so Shaylee like left. I left. It was about 11 o'clock at night. We're in Vegas, obviously. And I get in my Jeep Wrangler, which is new, by the way. I just bought it like 2 years ago or something, if that. Not even 2 years ago. And my Jeep will not start. My Jeep will not start. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm sitting outside of a damn casino at 11 at night on like a random Wednesday. I'm just chilling there, and I was like, I could call Shaylee, but I'm not going to panic. You know what I mean? I'm not going to panic. And so I'm sitting in the Jeep. I literally turned it on, and the lights came on, and it was just nothing. And I was like, okay. I shut it off. I was like, okay. Out loud, I was like, I'm not effing with you today. Okay? So you can just get to stepping on out of here, okay? I literally just sat there. I was very calm. I said the St. Michael prayer a couple times. And all of a sudden, I got this, like, overwhelming scent of perm solution in my car. That is my grandmother when she comes through. You can ask Kat if you don't believe me. Kat has literally been in the car with me when it's happened. And it's so strong, it actually made Kat cry because it's so strong. Like, do you know what perm solution smells like? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, I don't know why of all scents she chose. She did used to get perms.
I experienced that with my grandma as well. I can smell her sometimes.
Yeah, it's really strong. Yeah. Kat was like, please, Grandma, I can't breathe. My asthma. Like, so bad. So, and my grandmother, it was literally, I could smell the perm solution. I turned the car on. It turned on. But literally, I kid you not, I went all the way home, and my grandmother was in the Jeep with me. I could smell it because she's strong. And I get home, and it was, once again, now it's like 11:45 at night, and I'm like, I'm going to have to sage the house. Mm-hmm. I don't know what told me to sage it. Just something said sage the house. And so I did. I stayed up and saged. I was really, like, paranoid after that. I don't know why. Just the Jeep not starting was, like, not cool. You know what I mean? And then that was when we all four of us just started doing tons of research, like in group chat. We were just, Elfie's researching, Shaylee's, Kat's like, you want me to drive there tomorrow?
It was
like,
exhilarating.
So bad. So anyway, yeah, someone said perm solution stinks. Yeah, but I don't know. It's very comforting now that it's my grandmother, so I can't say that. It is. I know. It's just like I know it's
a
my
direct
grandma.
scent associated with her.
How do you deny? You're in a car with the windows have been shut for 2 hours for a movie. Mm-hmm. How do you deny that that's not your grandma?
Yeah.
I'm not.
I get the old people smell.
Do you?
You know, old people just have their scent.
My aunt was an alcoholic, and this is gonna sound strange, but like, have you ever smelled an alcoholic with that sour smell?
Yeah,
it is gross, but my aunt will come around like that sometimes, and I'm like, oh, there she is. She's hanging out, you know what I mean? So it is strange how that happens, but, so yeah, we get home, we started doing the research, and we had no idea. I had no idea what was going to happen. Like, so the next topic of tearing this apart is the misconstruedness of this story. It's like the game of telephone. People have taken the actual story. You'll get little teeny pieces that are right, and then you're just like, nothing makes sense. Like, none of it makes sense. You were researching, we were both trying to compare notes, we're both coming up with like different things. Mm-hmm. Some stories say that the little boy that was possessed, David, was 8, which we both believed he was 8 for like a minute. Then when we finally found the actual facts, he was 11, going on 12. Mm-hmm. Why do you think it gets so misconstrued so much?
I don't know, honestly. Just like you said, the game of telephone. That's really my only explanation for it.
I needed to hear the actual story, like, from the source. And Shaylee's listening to podcasts. We're watching multiple documentaries. We're like, what's going on here? What are we going to do? So finally, I found one documentary that was actually Lorraine Warren talking about it. The sister, Deb, and then Arnie was on there talking about it also. Nobody's heard from David, like, literally, since it happened. He was the kid that was, like, actually exorcised.
Yeah, the only one who ever speaks for him is his older brother Carl, but that's a whole other story that we'll get into.
Yeah, that's with the rocking chair.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later. Carl and then the other brother, Alan, right?
Alan, yeah.
Oh my god, it's a mess.
So Carl is like his own separate entity from the family. Alan and Debbie were very close.
And Carl is the one making money off of this the most, basically.
Trying to.
Attempting.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he? I think he tried to sue, too, right? Or something
He
like
tried
that?
to sue the Warrens and the author of The Devil in Connecticut back in 2006, which sadly is the same year that Ed had passed away, so I'm sure that was a lot of stress.
Turmoil.
Yeah.
But, like, when you hear them talk about it, they don't even mention Carl at all, the brother.
Well, Carl...
Vaguely, I guess.
Carl... So, if David is 11, Carl was a few years older than him at the time. Mm-hmm. And he thought that all of this was just a big joke. Mm-hmm. They would ask him for his help when David was, going through these fits, and he would just sit there and laugh. Or he would just, go to his friend's house. So he was never really involved.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. Maybe he is the devil, you know what I'm saying? Okay, I don't even know where to start with this. So now that you know the story's been misconstrued, and I'm talking, it took hours of digging, days of digging. So all I'm going to say is, with this, be very careful what you believe, unless you are, watching a video or listening to a podcast of people that were directly involved with it. Yeah. Because they have the actual story. Other articles, especially articles, are not accurate. There's been videos done of it. Obviously, the movie was... there were some accurate pieces, but it was also misconstrued. So, if you're going to research this yourself, just be very careful, because it took us forever to figure this out. So, starting the true story, because this is a lot to unpack. You should... That's notes on my phone.
It's just only one set of notes.
That is just my phone, guys. Do you see this? Look at that. That's crazy. And that doesn't include my laptop. So basically this started July 2nd of 1980. So I want to sort of compare the actual...
July 2nd of 1980?
July 2nd of 1980.
Today of 1980?
I know. So wait, fun fact. 2 weeks ago, I got Shaylee, because I was like, so how are you feeling? You've been with us for 4 or 5 months. I'm like, how are you feeling? Do you feel like you can jump into a podcast? She was like, yeah, let's do it. I send you a link of our podcast lists of and we had you scheduled for Haunted Dolls or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you were like, you know what? I really, really just want to do the new movie, the new Conjuring movie. And I was like, okay, fine, we'll do it. And it's fucking today.
It's wild.
I meant to tell you that earlier, but I didn't. I called Kat, and Kat was freaked out by it. Okay, so July 2nd of 1980, essentially. So this is where the story can get kind of screwed up. So the movie and articles say Debbie and Arnie moved in with Debbie's mother. But what actually happened from the source, which is Debbie, is Debbie and Arnie rented a house in Newton, Connecticut. And they were moving in July 2nd of 1980. Debbie called her mother and David to come help them move their stuff in. Mm-hmm. And apparently, the minute they walked in, Debbie's mother, her name's Judy, was like, something negative and oppressive is here.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. And Debbie was probably just high on life because she's moving out with her boyfriend, right? They're 18, 19, something in there.
Yeah.
And she's trying to just ignore it. So Debbie says, I'm going to give my mom something to do. Everybody's going to have something to do. She sends her little brother David in to sweep and clean the master bedroom. And that was when he started sweeping and something knocked him over and screwed with the broom, and it scared him really bad. He came running out of the house. He sat under a tree silent and wouldn't tell anybody else what was happening. So the fake story is he was sitting on a waterbed. That's one of them. And that an entity came through the waterbed and burst the waterbed. That did not happen.
Not in that exact moment. So if you fast forward a little bit, David ends up having... Well, he starts showing signs of, psychic ability. Mm-hmm. So I think he was talking to Debbie. So he was like under possession, and he told Debbie, he's like, you better bring a mop, you old bitch. And Debbie was like, bring a mop to the house, like, why? And it's because the previous tenant, her name was Karen,
Right.
she had a screwdriver in her back pocket, sat on the waterbed, and
Popped the
it.
waterbed. So I knew Karen had the waterbed. I didn't know it popped, though. But that was when Debbie asked Karen, saying, hey, have you ever had paranormal experiences in this house?
Yeah.
And Karen had lived there for like a year or two before. And she's like, oh, yeah, all the time.
She's like, this is
Doors
why I'm moving.
open, there's noises at night. Like, oh, yeah, I've seen an old man. She said, I've seen an old man. So then when Debbie heard that, she was like, okay, David now claims he's seen the old man. And now I believe it. I believe it. So see how this... It's hard to unpack this because there's so many, like, in-betweens in the middle.
Yeah.
David gets knocked down. Now the older brother, Alan, not Carl. So there's actually 3 older brothers, right? Alan, Carl, and another one? Or is it just Alan and Carl?
I think it's just Alan and Carl, but Debbie's son was also
that's
living
right.
at the family house.
Yeah, why don't they ever talk about Debbie's son?
I don't know.
It's not through Arnie, because Arnie's the one that stabbed the landlord. But there's never any discussion of there's a kid involved, which is shocking to me.
Yeah, there was a couple other kids involved. So I'm not exactly sure why they were never mentioned. I don't know where they were while all of this was going on.
Right.
But I'm assuming because David had a learning disability, he was the weakest link, and he was just the target.
Well, kids are also known for being very innocent and, like, open to that stuff. So then, like, Alan, which is the other brother, he goes in to basically finish cleaning up the master bedroom. That's when he notices there's paranormal activity. There's doors running, scratching, and doors slamming. And he says that he sees a transparent, like, man. And they all, believe that it's, like a beware type of feeling in the house. David, they assume David has taken pills. And I'm like, wait, what kind of pills do you guys have hanging around? So this is an 11-year-old boy, and they're like, oh, he took some pills, and he's, like, imagining things. Well, are you guys druggies? Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, what kind of pills are you leaving around? And they just try to, like, kind of blow it off. So David starts seeing these, like, images, clairvoyance. He says, I see this old man, and he turns into a beast at night. He has black holes in his eyes, jagged teeth, and pointy ears. And obviously David's psychic. Or medium, clairvoyant, whatever you want to say. Obviously, he has a gift. I cannot imagine being 11. Can you? I was sensitive to things as a kid anyway. I remember being asleep in my house and, like, I would just hear everything. Like, I just knew, I was so aware of my surroundings. But I can't imagine being able to see it.
No, just pure terror.
And dark. It's not even like, hey, grandma's here or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so now they're like, well, David's into comic books. You know, maybe it's his comic books that he's into. He's making up stories. But they didn't think that he was, like, a liar or a storyteller. So they couldn't really figure out where all this information was coming from. At this point, Deb and her boyfriend, Arnie, are still, like, moving in the house. They're not planning on coming out. Sorry, my dogs are barking. He says that he could hear the beast in his mind. And he says that Arnie and Debbie needed to move or they were going to pay the price. This literally happened on July 2nd, all of this.
It's wild.
What do you do, though? Think about it. Like, you pay for, like, your last month's rent or deposit or whatever. What do you do?
Ask for it back.
But
I
not
gotta
always.
go.
But usually when you're in contract, like, they won't let you out anyways.
Yeah, I know. I can't imagine being put in that situation. It's like your whole life just turns upside down in that moment. Like, what the hell am I going to do with this?
I'm sorry, I just got a text message. 1 second. Kat's texting me. I want to make sure that we're not having any... Oh, I accidentally texted group chat a picture of my Buffalo Wild Wing order. And everyone was like, okay. Right.
Coincidences do not exist.
I
It's
agree.
true. And yes.
Okay, they're saying Shaylee looks a little dark if you want to turn her up a little bit. If you want to reach that. Okay, so let's go back to this now. I told you guys this is a lot. So this is going to be a slower podcast than normal because this is a lot going on here. So David says he's hearing the beast talk to him in his mind. And he says that they don't need to move in. So now we're on July 3rd. Arnie drops off a couple of boxes at the new house. They haven't officially moved in yet. And he feels taps on his shoulder. But he just sort of ignores it and lets it roll off his back. You're having a kid that's seeing a demonic presence and you're gonna like, you had an experience and you know what I mean? Why do people do that? Like, I mean, I can't say I'm not guilty of it because as a human, we all go, okay, well, maybe I was like imagining it. Maybe I was thinking, you know, something else. But like, I feel like if there's a kid involved that's like seriously being affected, why are you?
They probably didn't know any better. I mean, nowadays we have so much to like work with.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? With
Well,
experiences
you're right.
and stories. But back then it's like, oh, it's just a kid. Like, he could be saying anything.
That's why Ed and Lorraine are important, though. Whether people want to, like whether I have my strong opinions on Ed or not, if they would not have done what they did by going to the media and publicizing the paranormal, we wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
So people can hate on them as much as you want. If you don't believe in them, fine, it doesn't matter. But if they wouldn't have taken something to the media, like they were the first ones to introduce it to the media to make it like mainstream, I think it would still be like hidden under the rug like the Catholic Church tries to do. You know what I mean? So you can't hate them completely because they were pioneers to allow us to be where we're at. So
look at all these bomb movies that came out because of them.
Man, even Paranormal Activity, man, that was a $10,000 movie.
That was good.
And
That
it
was
made
good too, yeah.
millions. That's what sucks. You don't want to take me to the movies because I'm going to analyze the movie the whole time. As a filmmaker, I'm going to be like, and then I'll think back and be like, well, yeah, as a paranormal investigator, like, it was pretty good. But, like, as a filmmaker, here's my opinion on it. You know what I mean? It's probably why it's not so enjoyable for me to go to the movies because I'm just analytically describing
No,
it.
I like doing that, too, during the movie. So I'm like...
We both were. You were like, that shot. And I was like, that shot was so good. Yes. So July 3rd, this is when Arnie drops the boxes off. This is the day that Karen, the previous tenant, comes by to get her waterbed. And Debbie talks to her and says, is there paranormal, like what's going on here? And the previous tenant, Karen's like, yeah, yep, there's something in here. And that's why I'm leaving. I'm moving. And it's so interesting because I feel like if that backs the story up more. So why did that chunk be so left out in all the versions we've heard?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that should have definitely been left in because she specifically says that she would wake up every single night at 3 o'clock in the morning because her name was being called. She couldn't get any sleep, and she's like, I gotta get out of here.
I don't blame her. I wouldn't be able to deal with that. I had a woman one time that had a haunting in a rental. She wanted me to come investigate. And I told her that I would, but under the conditions that she needed to start putting her foot down with it. And I said, you're letting it live there rent-free. So, like, you're the one that, you know, I'll come help you, but I need you to try to get it out and do something. Like, you can't leave it all up to me. Basically, she wanted me to come film Paranormal Activity so she could take it to the courts to get out of her lease. And I said, I will, but, like, you need to go buy St. Michael candles. You need to start reciting it. I gave her white sage. And she literally was like, I don't believe in any of that.
Well,
I did, and I was like, well, then I can't help you.
Yeah.
Because I said, I cannot force it to leave. It's your house. Even if you're renting it, it's your house. You have to speak to it to authority. She's like, well, you know, like, for years I've been, like, atheist and agnostic, and, like, I don't know if anything exists or if it's just nothing, and I don't care. And I'm like, well, then why are you calling me? Because I can't sleep at night. Because it keeps me up. I'm like, so if nothing exists, you don't believe that it's there. Mm-hmm. So it's so weird, though, how people get religion stuck with that. Like, you don't have to have a religious title to believe the other side exists.
Exactly.
You know? But if you're being woken up. And then she was like, well, I think my boyfriend's had possession a few times. And I was like, oh, you need to call a priest. Like, truthfully. She's like, no, I can't because I don't believe in it. And I'm like, well, then enjoy your haunted house, ho, because I'm not going to be able to help you. If you want me to call a priest, what do you think I can do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she's like, just can you come in and force it out? I'm like, I don't live there. It's going to laugh at me. I don't pay rent there.
Yeah, regardless of what you believe in, you gotta use the forces against the forces.
Or live with it.
Yeah.
Or live. And then when she
Since you
told
don't
me
believe
her
in it.
boyfriend was like being possessed and he got violent, I was like, you know what? I'm dipping out because I don't need to be hurt along with the crew. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. People are strange. There's red flags. It's okay to say no to an investigation is the point of that.
Yes.
So Debbie talks to her, says yes. Karen says the worst room in the house is the master bedroom. She says that she would hear whispers of her name, wake up at 3 a.m. And she also felt a cold body in bed next to her.
Ew.
That happened to me once.
Ew.
It did. I was at the... should I tell you? You want to hear about it?
Yeah, let's
I
hear
was
it.
at the Stanley Hotel. And... Because I've been there too many times to count. And my friend was doing a paranormal conference. She was planning this huge conference. And I was helping her. I was running like back and forth to the airport and stuff. And so she's like, dude, I'm just going to get like a suite. Because she got it for free. She's like, I'm just going to get a suite. Like, just stay the night. And like, you don't have to pay. And I was like, dude, I don't know how. Like, anytime I would go to the Stanley Hotel to do anything related to paranormal, I always stayed at the hotel down the street. Because you don't get sleep there.
Right.
And it's probably one of the more, like, friendly haunts, if you want to call it that. But, like, she's like, just stay. I don't want to stay alone. It's a suite. Just stay. I don't want to stay alone. It's a king-size bed. And I was like, oh, my God, I'm just not going to sleep. I know it. So we're in bed asleep. By the way, she was, like, she had a few too many drinks, if you know what I'm saying. So she was, like, snockered out. Like, she blacked out practically in bed. And I don't drink under... You know, I got... Like, I just think you take your filter off when you're drinking. You know what I mean? And especially in a haunted hotel, like, not gonna happen. So, no, instead I'm sober and paranoid. Like, literally, what's better, you know? And so we're in bed, and I remember I covered my eyes and my head, because they mess with you there. You'll feel your foot being pulled. It just is. You'll feel something slap the bed. They'll yank the covers off. And they're being funny, honestly. Like, there's nothing really that malicious at the Stanley Hotel. And I was like, I don't want to get messed with tonight. So I, like, wrapped myself up like a mummy. And I was, like, facing the opposite direction. She is blacked out drunk next to me. I mean, there's space between us. And all of a sudden, it's like 3 a.m. And you feel someone, like, hands and then knees start to crawl up between us in the bed. And it laid down between us. Like we were all spooning or something. And I felt it, and you know what I did? I took the sheets really hard and I fluffed the sheets. I was like, get off the bed. And it was gone after that. And I woke her up. I was like, dude, there was a body that was just between us. She's like a person? I was like, no, like a ghost. And she was like, that's so cool. And then she went back to bed. So I felt that. So it's legit. That is scary. That is like horror movie shit. You know what I mean? Like,
That's a no from me, fam.
Well, we'll have to go to the Stanley Hotel and stay the night one time on our road trip.
An episode on it too.
Yeah. Oh my God. I feel like there's so many things that get left out in episodes with the Stanley. There's so much more there that people don't do. Everybody wants to go to the carriage house. It's just, I mean, there's some weird stuff in there, but honestly, the concert hall is where it's at the Stanley. Let's see. So Debbie talks to Arnie. He arrives and says, dude, the previous tenant says it's haunted. We need to get our money back. And Arnie obviously remembers being tapped on the shoulder, and he's like, yeah, you're right. We need to not move in here. They get their money back from the person, which is shocking. Mm-hmm. It makes you wonder, like, does he know? Yeah, does the owner know?
Well, the room in the cellar was locked, and they never had access to it.
Something's
so
up.
Something's going on
Something's
there.
up. Like, or were there murder? Like, nobody really knows. We were, like, scouring, trying to find the address, and we still haven't found the address yet. But we will continue to try.
Not of the rental property, at least.
Which is where it supposedly started at. Yeah. So after that, they did move back to Brookfield, Connecticut with Debbie's mother. But it was basically too late. There was already an attachment that happened. So David's sitting there one night, or is this the same night? This is like July 3rd. Okay, David says, the beast is on his way. He's coming, and he's here. He's coming from the rental property. And he was saying, like, he was literally talking as if the beast was walking. And he was like, he's almost here, he's almost here. And then he's like, oh, he's on the front porch now, and he's looking through the window. How does a 11-year-old make that up?
I don't think.
I don't think that's funny. I don't think,
no.
you know what I mean? Like, I don't think an 11-year-old would make that up.
I don't think an 11-year-old would have the attention span to keep a story going for that long either.
It's true. Well, especially if it was something that looked like, quote, the beast, and if he's calling it.
Yeah, and if he played video games and read comic books all the time, like, you know that kid's going to be in there on his video game, as opposed to sitting terrified,
waiting for something to show up on the porch. Yeah,
afraid of this beast that's going to come over.
I'm going to be honest, before we saw this movie, I was really big skeptic on this whole thing. I was also a really big skeptic on this story because I couldn't find the actual story. Yeah. And it was frustrating.
You gotta really dig.
You do have to dig, but when you hear it from the mouths of people that were involved, that's when I was like, okay, I buy it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before I didn't buy it, I'm going to be honest. And there's some tea that just literally happened a couple weeks ago with Debbie, so we're going to spill that too, but we're not there yet. That's going to take a minute. It shocked both of us literally just a few minutes ago. Okay, so Debbie's mom grabs the holy water. She's throwing it basically on the porch and on the window where David says the beast is at, and David says the beast hates it, but he's leaving and he's going back to the rental house. So clearly something about that rental house is like the beast's home, right?
Back to his hidey hole.
We need to find that address, I'm telling you. So now you're at July 4th. There's no mention of what's going on. They go out to a picnic. They go out, blah, blah, blah. David says when they come home after fireworks, the beast is here and it's in the attic. He found his way through the attic. Mm-hmm. I saw the interviews of like Debbie and Arnie while they're talking about this. They didn't seem fazed by it. Like I think they thought he was still making the story up a little bit.
Yeah. Like,
they didn't seem convinced while he's telling the story.
Until they saw concrete evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're inside the house. It's obviously late after fireworks. They start hearing traffic, like foot traffic up in the attic. And Arnie decides to go up there and check. There's nothing that's there. And then when he comes back downstairs, it just gets even worse. Scratching, louding, growls, stomping literally in the attic. And it was a few minutes, and then finally it stopped. But Arnie said nobody slept that night in the house because it was just so loud in the attic. Once again, why has this real story not been portrayed? Because I feel like if there's a demon in the attic, that's a lot scarier. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, especially if the kid is psychically saying there's a demon in the attic, and then you start hearing noises. Like, that's the legit story.
Yeah. Why
has that story not been told? Because that is freaky. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been in an attic?
Yeah, they are extremely creepy. Mm-hmm. Very
hot,
small,
because like air rises,
dark,
musty.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in the Colorado Springs, and we had a haunted house. We lived in a haunted house, and I was there by myself. And you would, at like 3 a.m., it sounded like there was just a ton of people walking upstairs. And finally, I was like, one night, what the hell? Did they have someone locked up there? It was a rental. You know, we'd just moved in. I went to get in the attic, and it had literally been like bolted and screwed shut by like probably 200 or 300 nails and screws. I'm not even kidding you. Mm-hmm. And I, like, first of all, I'm not going to undo what someone did, because clearly they don't want you up there. But second of all, someone went to serious extent to not allow access in there.
Yeah.
And it's just messes you up.
There's a small attic door in one of my bedrooms, and I did not deal with that at all. I was just like, I'm going to put my TV in front of that so I can't see it.
Yeah, that one had crawl spaces too. We did open the crawl spaces before we left, and it was, something was there. I don't even know, but I know what they went through because I've dealt with it before.
Unoccupied space for them to dwell.
Well, and maybe it is because it's so stagnant energy that they can manipulate the energy better or something. Because what is it about crawl spaces, basements, and attics? There's got to be something about like energy manipulation and why entities, dark or not dark or human, are attracted to that space. There's something about that. Because even Bobby Mackey's, I've been there, like the basement underneath is stagnant, very dark, very strange. It's because it literally feels like there's portals in every section. Because there's like a little gnome that haunts it. Then there's like where the strippers haunt. Then you go upstairs and it's the gangster. It's like, it's so, once again, the attic and the basement. what is it about those spaces that it's got to be harboring energy, or they can manifest easier or
Just
something.
unoccupied spaces.
Strange. So David says that he can hear and see the beast. So now we're at July 9th of 1980. So this is like crazy that they have literally day by day.
Mm-hmm.
July 9th, David's basically getting worse. He's telling his mother, Judy, that the beast is more the beast told him, quote, "The beast is more powerful than Jesus Christ himself." And David starts telling his mother, "You need to take down your holy relics," because they're Catholic. And she basically refused to take them down, but the beast kept delivering these messages that harm was going to be done if the holy relics weren't removed, and that their God was no good, essentially.
Yeah.
Thank God Judy did not remove everything. But once again, how does an 11-year-old kid make that up?
Interesting thing about Judy, though, is that she actually wanted to become a nun,
I
but she
that.
wanted to have children instead.
Right, which I don't blame her.
Mm-hmm.
But it is strange. Where does an 11-year-old... Like, your mom's religious.
Mm-hmm.
Kat's family is very religious. Can you imagine at 11 going to your mom and be like, you need to take all your stuff down because your God isn't good against the beast? Okay, you need to go be dipped in holy water.
We're on our way to the church. Let's
Yeah,
go.
like literally, like something's
Yeah.
wrong. So like, it's just weird that it took so long for them to like take this child serious, because I feel like these are some serious red flags in a child. Like, I can remember back being 11 and I would have never
No.
said, like, my family was very religious on the Native American side of Cherokee.
Mm-hmm.
So my grandmother had given all of my family Cherokee relics all around the house, and I remember, like, we're protected by our ancestors. I would have never walked up to my mom or aunt and been like, take down your relics because the beast is stronger than your God. Like, that's crazy.
It is.
But like he must have really been getting that information psychically to be able to interpret it that well.
He had to have.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So anyway, we're going to move forward. So now Judy at this point calls a priest. I would do the same. I would have already been driving my kid to the church. Literally, I would have dipped my kid in the holy water and be like, go take a bath because I don't know what's going on right. To drink some, splash your eyes. You know what I mean? Take a bath, get some shampoo. The beast says, don't do it. Don't call the priest or there will be consequences. So all of this information is coming from David. David now starts choking himself. And there's also random bruises and beat marks, black and blue, appearing all over his body. And they are witnessing what looks like something beating him up and nothing's there. The whole family is witnessing it.
Yeah.
He's being held down, he's being choked, he's being like shoved in the couch, against walls. Things are levitating, flying off of the doors. Like it's like a thing. It's like a thing.
Yeah.
So now we're on July 10th of 1980. Judy calls in the father again, which is the mother. The father comes for a house blessing. He blesses the house. He blesses every room. He blesses David. He gives him scapulars to wear, which are like holy relics. And it settles for like a minute. Now we're back on to July 11th of 1980. David claims his toy dinosaur became animated.
And chased after him.
And the beast was speaking through his toy dinosaur.
That's so scary.
It is scary,
So
but
scary.
when you're hearing that as a parent, unless I saw it, you are going to say maybe the kid needs a psychological evaluation.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just being real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you are going to be like, okay, oh shit, now my kid thinks that his toy dinosaur is chasing him. Although they are seeing him get, like, physical assaults. But, like, what do you do as a parent? It's true. And you're talking 1980. The internet didn't exist yet.
Yeah. So you have to do
Google
it
wasn't
locally.
a thing. You know, like, couldn't Google it. Like, there's books. But, like, yeah, who do you call? And if this one case is going on, how many others are happening not only across the nation, but, like, across the world? And they can't call the Warrens or whoever else to help.
Or they can't even comprehend exactly what they're even dealing with.
You don't even know. So July 11th of 1980, that night, he's been hit so hard in the stomach that he actually passes out. David says now that the beast is stabbing him in the chest with something sharp, and it's knocked the wind out of him. There's no blood, but all of the family is witness to basically a physical assault happening by an unseen force. And nobody really knows what to do. The beast tells David verbatim, "Give up your soul or I'll torture you." And David responds with, "No, my soul belongs to Jesus."
Bless him.
His mom taught him, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's trying.
He was fighting.
Mm-hmm.
He really was.
I don't even know if I'd have the strength at 11 if something was beating me like that. You know what I mean?
No.
So the beast says he wants his soul. He wants to bring in additional demons to make sure that David surrenders. Okay. So now, this is where Kat and I were, like, actually laughing. I'm going to be honest. When we were researching, Kat and I got on the phone the other day, we were like, 43, 47 demons. Like, so there's different numbers depending on what you read. From the source, there's 43 demons, okay? Mm-hmm. But Kat and I are like, okay, what? Why 43 demons? It didn't make sense in a lot of the other stories, but when it came from the source, it finally made sense. So David is saying that they are all named by number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because obviously if the beast gives the names away, that takes their power away, as the Catholic Church would say during an exorcism. They were all assigned to each person in the family to torture each person in the family. No names were given because that takes away their power, and it would cause the demons were they were told by the beast to thrash out on the family, beat the family, and especially David, break him down so he becomes weak so that they can have a soul. So once David starts speaking of these 43 demons, Judy calls the father for a blessing again. The father at the church basically says, "There's really nothing I can do. I don't know what to tell you." But he gives them the number and name of Ed and Lorraine Warren, and that's when they get involved.
Mm-hmm. The neighbors also witnessed David being attacked as well. They also suggested to call the Warrens. And
that's crazy.
That's when the father was like, "Yeah, already done."
That's crazy. I don't even know. And it just happened to be in Connecticut, thank God, because that's where they all were.
The father was like, I got a trip to go on with my mom, so I can't get too involved with this.
So I don't want you to pass your demons on to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Let me call the guy.
So July 13th now. So this poor kid's been going through the ringer for like 13 days. Like, Jesus. It's a Sunday evening, and that is when the Warrens got the phone call. And basically they said that, yeah, we're on our way. Like, they didn't even question it. It's interesting, though, because in the interview, Lorraine says that she had been driving around that Sunday afternoon with Ed, and she knew something was going to happen, but she didn't know what it was, and she warned Ed about it.
Wow.
So once again, I do really believe Lorraine was legitimate. I really do. So they arrive Sunday night. This is another interesting thing that's always left out. The Warrens brought a physician with them to check the boy for mental abuse, physical abuse, and emotional abuse. Mm-hmm. They wanted to rule out that he had, like, psychiatric issues. Why was that left out of every other story we've heard about this? It gives him more credibility.
It does, yeah.
You're like, okay, so, because you do think, okay, this boy says a dinosaur is chasing him. I'm concerned. Like, I'm really concerned, because that sounds crazy.
Well, I think when people initially hear that there's, like, a case of demonic possession, they just kind of run with it, and they don't bother to get all the details. Mm-mm. You know, they're just like, oh, I got this story. Let's get it out. Yeah, but
this is, like, good when it's, like, the real thing. Because, like, this is how, in my opinion, as a paranormal investigator, like, and once again, whatever you want to think about Ed and Lorraine, fine. But, like, as a paranormal investigator, when somebody says, I have a demonic attachment or I'm possessed, the first thing you think is, oh my God, I hope that you've at least seen a psychiatrist once. It just gives it more credible. I had a guy message me on Facebook years ago when I was investigating with my old group from Paranormal Challenge. He saw my episode on Paranormal Challenge, and he messaged me saying he needed help. And I was like, okay, well, I had to be careful. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, you just don't want to go bebopping into somebody's house. And this guy's, thank you for the bits, Kat. This guy says, I have aliens coming through my daughter's toys. And I was like, well, I don't do aliens, first of all. But it makes you be like,
what are we dealing with?
This is not my department. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and like, I think I even asked, are you doing drugs? And he had said yes. I don't know what he said. I can't remember.
Oh.
But I was like, well,
Yeah, that plays a
there's
huge
your
part in
answer.
it.
If it's LSD, bro, that's not my department. You know what I'm saying? So bad. So basically, Ed, Lorraine, and the physician arrive. The doctor checks out the boy, basically says he's like a normal little boy. And now Lorraine says her first instinct of seeing if there's a possession or something dark going on is that she can, quote, see auras in people. And she said that his aura was severely disturbed, David, the little boy. At that time, he wasn't, quote, possessed. So Lorraine did start interviewing the boy. They like set up the tape recorder, and David tells Lorraine the beast is in the living room. And now this is when Ed steps in. Ed says that he's going to provoke it because he wants to know what it is. He doesn't know if it's real. So as Ed's provoking it, you know, using, what would you call it? Religious terminology? Is that a good way to put it? That they heard 3 loud bangs, and 3 times is demonic. 3 mocks the Holy Trinity. 3 p.m. is when Jesus died on the cross, and 3 a.m. is when the devil is most prominent. So the Warrens deemed the 3 knocks evil.
Mm-hmm.
So just pause for 1 second. Okay, let's just dig this apart for a minute. Considering what David has been through and what he's supposedly seeing, and he's being beaten and abused by an unseen force, I agree. I obviously agree. As paranormal investigators listening to this podcast, please do not immediately go out and be like, oh, I heard 3 knocks, it's a demon. Because that's what we have a problem with on TV right now, is that everything is a freaking demon, and it's not. It is not. And I have had energies mock being demons before. And you have to call them out on it, and you do have to provoke a little bit. But, like, I can smell bullshit. You know what I mean?
So, really negative spirits aren't always considered demons.
Not even negative ones. Sometimes they just want to mess with you. Mm-hmm. Maybe they don't want you to be in their house. I've had things come through I think I was with Kat. We were investigating somewhere, and something came through on the Ouija board that said it was Zozo. And I was like, no way. I know the energy of that something dark, and that was I called it out, and then it spelled ha ha. So just be very leery. Like, it's just not always a demon. Like, honestly, energy speaks for itself. If you have someone on your crew that's an energy reader, that's how you need to read the energy. It's not just a demon because it knocks 3 times. I just want to make sure that that's clear, because that really gets on my nerves sometimes. Okay, so David says, Ed and Lorraine say, can you ask him what his name is? And David says, his name is Satan. I don't believe it was Satan himself. If it is, my God, let me make dinner for you. I am so privileged to have Satan in my house this evening. Like, Jesus. I don't think it was, quote, Satan. I think they take the image of what they wish they could be.
Satan's minions.
But they're not going to take their own name, because that takes away their power. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that was where the name of this whole trial came from, of the devil made me do it, or Satan made me do it. No, I don't think so. Like, let's not jump to conclusions. But that's once again where Ed is an opportunist. And he said, oh, the boy says it's Satan, so it's Satan, and he's possessed by Satan. And I'm just like, okay, this is a little bit of bullshit. I'm just going to say it. You know what I mean? Like, how do you feel about it?
I don't honestly know.
I just think it's bull. I don't think it's Satan. I think it's minions. I think it's demons or minions. I don't think it's Satan. So Lorraine says he won't just be possessed, it's a long wait and a long process, which made me feel better, because the movie made it seem like it was like he was possessed and then it was over with.
Yeah, it wasn't over.
Right. It was like he's possessed in a day. And no, it took weeks. It took like actual weeks for him to fully get possessed.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think kids get possessed easily?
They're more susceptible. They don't know how to protect themselves. They don't know the different energies. They're also closer to the veil because they're so young.
Mm-hmm. Pure souls.
Pure souls.
No filters, because they haven't really been taught to have a filter yet.
Yeah.
So Lorraine says he's resisting, but he was also then again beaten, abused, and assaulted again. The Catholic Church was the one that we're going to have to approve it through the Archdiocese, through Rome, and it's a long, formal process. Kat said it's even gotten worse now. The process is even worse. Kat knows a family father that she's known since she was a child, and he actually took an oath of silence for many years. He's actually considered a monk, and he's actually done actual exorcisms on things.
Oh, wow.
He will not talk to Kat about them, but when Kat told him that she's like, I'm getting ready to go into paranormal, all he did was bring her a bunch of stuff to keep her protected. I loved that. He didn't even lecture her.
Yeah.
He was like, just make sure you stay protected and like keep your faith with you. And I was like, I like this guy. Like, even for like the holy side, he wasn't like, don't do that, don't touch it, it's a demon.
Yeah.
So that night after the Warrens left, David was watching TV. His eyes started to roll back and he started to make weird noises. He actually took a knife and held it up to Artie. I found that interesting because the knife with Artie, when Artie stabs the landlord.
Yeah.
So it does make sense if Artie was actually possessed, that there's been like an obsession with a knife sort of all along. But this is with David. But they don't share that either. But this paints such a like more vivid picture, in my opinion.
Yeah, complete detail.
It is complete. So they knock the like knife out of David's hand. He didn't stab Artie, and the family starts to pray. And this is when like possession number 1 essentially took place. David turned blue and stopped breathing on the floor. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, they thought he died.
They tried to administer CPR and it didn't work. Artie and Deborah tried to do a CPR. So right as they're basically like at fault saying he's dead, the Warrens walk in and he starts breathing again. Lorraine says she thinks he started breathing again because they posed a threat because of their knowledge. And at the time, David was 11. They looked at Lorraine and said, is he possessed right now? And she said, I loved this statement. This is why I wrote it down. It says, you're never possessed 24 hours a day. You're only possessed part of the time. They can decide when they enter and when they exit. And she said they didn't choose Debbie and Judy because they're strong women, and David has a dozen episodes of possession and the family was pretty much exhausted at this point. There are physical attacks, poundings, objects flying off the walls. His eyes were rolling in the back of his head. His eyes actually turned black a couple of times. There was holy water involved, ambulance, prayer, and spiritual warfare. They were having to take shifts with David. Lorraine recommended him not being alone at all. And then Debbie started doing a journal and recorded verbally when David was possessed and by hand in journal notes. Why didn't they talk about that? You don't realize there's like journal entries of every single and actual tapes. Like, that's what was compelling to me, is when you think of an exorcism or possession going on, you're automatically thinking that Lorraine and Ed are there doing it themselves. They weren't even there during most of the possessions. Yeah. It was the family recording it. That to me is like, oh, that's okay. I believe it. Because then that takes Ed, if he is sketchy, out of the picture, and Ed wasn't even involved. The family was recording it, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, the family was very involved, and poor Judy. Judy had to stay home with David while, they would like go to work, and she would call Deb and be like, when are you coming home?
Well, and the possessions and stuff, they'd have to actually physically hold him down, they said.
Yeah.
And even at 11 for a little boy, he's probably still pretty strong.
Yeah, well, David was being physically attacked, but it was so bad to the point where the family couldn't even sleep at night because David would attack them.
Right.
So they were just up all night.
They were literally taking shifts like every 5 or 6 hours of who they were watching, and if he'd become possessed, they told him to. Imagine it's your shift and it's 3 a.m. and you're like, shit. Shit.
Afraid your little brother's going to attack you.
Why did I have to get the 3 a.m. shift tonight? I shouldn't laugh, but it's true. They probably had to hide the weapons. You know what I mean? Like, if he had the knife, like, yeah, I mean, I don't even know what you'd do. It's poor people. Oh, my God. Talk about some trauma. They said literally so Deb would record every time he was possessed. They would have to hold him down, and they needed the proof for the bishop so that he could get approved for a physical exorcism. And most of the time the Warrens were not there. They only witnessed 1 or 2 times he was possessed. David called his own mom a bitch through one of the possessions and started to laugh. Like, there are sections online you can find of David being possessed. How do you feel about the tapes?
The tapes were very eerie.
It's disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it doesn't sound like a little 11-year-old.
No, it doesn't. With the way that he would snarl and laugh and mock them.
Well, and she's like, get out of my son, get out of my son. And he was like, I own your son. Like, it was just weird, like, ugh. Calling your own mom a bitch at 11, I don't think, I would have gotten slapped for that. Possessed or not, my mom would have backhanded me.
And they were such a tight-knit family that I don't think he would dare to do that.
Well, and religious.
Yeah.
Like the family was very Catholic. That's the only reason they got so much help, was because they were Catholic and they were so involved with the church. So the possessions basically went on for weeks. Once again, other stories make it look like, oh, he got possessed immediately, and like even the movie was like he went in the house and he was possessed and then that was it. Even Lorraine was like, no, it took a long time. It was interesting though, she had another statement. She says, I was very bothered. She goes, it bothers you as a mother seeing somebody else, a family going through so much torment. And she's like, of course I wanted to help them because it bothered me. So once again, I find her to be very authentic no matter what. Now at this point, Alan, who's the older brother, starts hearing hissing. He walks in thinking he's seeing like a snake on the bed and he runs out. And the whole family feels like they can't go in any of the rooms alone because they're going to be attacked if they walk in the rooms. So now they're like exhausted. They're probably not working to the full extent and they're babysitting David 24/7. These people are just like having a rough time right now. So halfway through one of the documentaries I was watching, Deb finally cries because she's like talking about how exhausted she was. So now we're at July 27th. Now Arnie gets involved. He has his first encounter. He says he sees a black mass that's forming and the face sort of takes shape with deep black pits. He says that the eyes are so dark that they literally draw you to another realm. And it's the first time anyone else has seen the demon. And he has basically seen it manifest. And so there was already a curiosity there going on of like, it chooses you or something like that, which is weird. So now Debbie's still keeping journal entries. She's calling them diabolical attacks. And now we're on August 1st. So this poor 11-year-old's been going through possessions for like 4 weeks, basically.
It's very exhausting.
My God. Like, I remember being a kid loving sleep. I can't imagine, like, you're even afraid to go to sleep.
It's like, at what point is this going to end?
David was left alone for the first time because I'm sure they were tired. I can't imagine the family, like,
constantly on alert.
He was left alone for literally like 5 minutes while Judy went and did the dishes. And that 5 minutes he became possessed. And the demon came through saying, David will die. Call the Warrens. And she wanted to call the Warrens to get a minor exorcism. And the demon kept saying that David is gone. And he was in full possession and his eyes were completely black. This is also when he started levitating off of the bed. They beg the father to sort of escalate the process. But unfortunately, you cannot force Rome or the Archdiocese to go faster because it just is what it is. So the priest decides to come in for a minor rite of exorcism at the local church. So once again, this is interesting because I feel like Ed bragged a lot. And most of the time, I feel like he made it sound like he would do some of the exorcisms, which I think he did do some. Which he's really not supposed to. It's not safe to do that if you don't know what you're doing. Kat's very against it. Like, although she is against Catholicism after what she went through with her life, she also very much believes that if you're going to get an exorcism, it should be the correct person doing it. So they do a minor rite of exorcism at a local church. So this is September 2nd. They take David to church. And that he is so unruly because he's still in a state of possession that they had to wrap him in a sheet like a burrito and walk him into church like that because he was thrashing around so hard. He starts speaking in tongues in Latin, and that's when the priest starts performing the exorcism inside of the church. Once again, that is never been shared with this story. You always think that it's at home in the rocking chair or something. Where is the rocking chair come in? We don't know yet. And an exorcism, in my opinion, probably should be taking place in a church. But they always make it sound like it's hush-hush and like it doesn't want to be public, so we don't do it in public, we do it at home. So in the church, while the exorcism's going on, the father says that there's levitation of books, and books are flying off the shelves. Ed told the father to be careful. He said that's not David. David ended up breaking free from the sheet and tried to kill the father in church. And as the priest was continuing to do the exorcism, David stopped breathing and he turned blue, and they thought he died again. And basically Judy stepped in and was like, stop the exorcism. Like, you're gonna kill my son. So a few minutes after he stopped, he started breathing again. But they didn't know what to do. So they scheduled a second exorcism on the following week. So once again, we're in August. The day they chose was the day of Virgin Mary's birthday. They hoped that that day would be non-violent and it would be calm. And the exorcism went well. They thought it was gone. But Lorraine, once again being psychic, said, if you take him home, you need to watch him, because I'm afraid something's going to happen after midnight.
That was on September 8th, though, right?
Yes, that was after the second exorcism.
And that was the Virgin Mary's...
The Virgin Mary's birthday. So
right after it turned midnight, he was attacked again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now we're at that midnight, which is technically September 9th of 1980. David's in, like, the worst state of possession he's been in. The priest is at the home with them. He did go home with them. And he's thrashing around. He's not really saying anything, but he literally, they said he looked like he was dying slowly. Because he's being, like, beat. He's not conscious. He's breathing, but he's just being beat by unseen forces, and he's, like, turning black and blue, and he looks like he's dying. So that night, September 9th of 1980, is when Arnie was so sick of seeing his his girlfriend's brother being beat up, that he challenged the demon and he said, take me instead of David. And basically everybody, the priest, the Warrens, started yelling at Arnie saying, don't you dare say that. You don't know what you're challenging. Mm-hmm. And Arnie's like, I don't care. I'm trying to protect him. He's 11. He shouldn't be going through this. And they said, don't do that. You're inviting it and allowing it in, which I do believe that's one way possession can happen, is you want to experience it by inviting it in. And basically, by dawn, they said that it was like a veil had lifted and David was back to normal. But Lorraine knew that she was sensing there was going to be a tragedy to come. So you're kind of like, okay, so David's not possessed anymore and everything's calm. So now what happens? So now we're in November of 1980. It's been 2 months after the, quote, successful exorcism. David has now turned 12. And now Arnie and Deb have been living at home with the mom, and now they're going to move out. So this is when you have a lot more info on Alan Bono. Mm-hmm. So basically, Deb wants to move out. She wants to, she's going to be working at the dog kennel. The owner and new person living in this area is Alan Bono. He is the owner of this basic location, and they're going to be renting a room apartment from him for free in exchange for working at the dog kennel. So now I totally skipped over the next part because I'm going to let you tell it, because you did all the research on this part.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to get into. It's like the whole thing is like 3 separate stories that could be like their own entities, really. Mm-hmm. So
because you're like, okay, well, where's Satan for the last 2 months, bro? Where'd you go? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
where have you been? Like, you're not chilling with David anymore. They're not really having any paranormal activity in the house. Arnie obviously challenged it. So now what's going on?
That's kind of what I'm wondering too, is like exactly what was happening between the months of November and February of 1981. if things just got a little bit quiet, maybe the demon was just waiting for its moment to attack. Because Arnie did invite the demon in at that point. So maybe it was just waiting. You know, it's like... Okay,
maybe it's harder to possess an adult.
Yeah, because they're stronger.
Easier as a child, yeah. Which
I'm not
would make
sure
sense.
if Arnie had strong faith at that time. I think that he did. But
they
still.
said that the whole... So this is in Brooksfield, Connecticut. They say the whole area, still to this day, is predominant Catholic religion.
Yeah.
In fact, they say most of Connecticut is all prominent Catholic religion.
Yeah, something's going on with Connecticut over there.
Yeah, well, Kat swears there's like a dark portal. Sorry, Kat, I'm outing you. But
It's one of the oldest
Kat's like,
states.
I don't go there, okay? And I was like, what? She's like, no, really, I don't go there. I was like, oh, okay. She's like, yeah, as a local from you know, New England, you don't go there, okay?
Yeah, so they were all pretty good friends with Alan.
So who's all of they?
All of them, which would be Debbie, Arnie, Arnie's family, which is his immediate sisters.
And Alan's the new...
And Alan is the new landlord / boss.
So
Debbie's
literally
boss.
the whole family is just... It's a small town.
Yeah, so they pretty much went around...
P.S. I
business as
looked
normal.
up the actual, like, how many people live there. To this day, it's only 16,000 in that city. So it's a very small town. Back in the 80s, I'm sure it was even less than that.
Even smaller, yeah. Yep, so, well, David started to show signs of psychic ability, like I said. And he told Arnie, after Arnie invited the demon in, he's like, something's going to happen to you. And sure enough, something happened to him. Arnie was a tree surgeon, so he was basically a tree trimmer. So he was up about 50 feet on this tree, working on this tree, and he saw his restraint become untied right in front of him, and he fell 50 feet. I don't know exactly what happened, but luckily he didn't fall to the ground, so he wasn't completely injured. But still.
Could have been.
Yeah. It's insane.
What if he, like, hit his balls on, like, a... You know what I mean? Like, literally. You know how trees are? Like, bam. That can make you not be able to have kids. Like, legit. I mean, he's lucky. He slid down however he did. Very delicately.
It's really
you know?
scary.
Like a feather. Just a little feather. Float down to earth.
Yep.
Kat's gonna be like, why are you talking about balls, Krystal? Sorry about that.
Another interesting thing about Arnie, the day that he had murdered his landlord, if you didn't know,
Which
he murdered
was
his landlord,
February 16th.
1981.
So, literally, so wait a second. I mean, I don't mean to laugh, but, like, okay, hang on. So David had his final exorcism September 9th. They moved out in November, and now we're in February. That's a...
It does seem like a big chunk of time, but is it though? You know?
I feel like there's holes missing, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm curious as to if Arnie showed any signs of torment in between, or if this just happened like straight out of the gate when he was vulnerable.
Now, in the movie, why don't you talk about what happens in the movie? He's sweating. He senses something's in there. He doesn't know what it is. He's starting to get weird flashes in the movie.
Oh, that's right.
Of, like, demons and, like, red lights and weird stuff. And, like, he's getting weird images.
So that is kind of accurate, obviously exaggerated. So in the movie, Arnie was at work, he accidentally drops his chainsaw and he gets sent home. By the time he gets home, he's all sweaty, he's not feeling good. Alan is like ready to party, he's drinking, he cranks up the stereo, which...
It's true.
It is true, yeah. Arnie actually did fix Alan's stereo while they were there. They were all just hanging out, you know, having a jolly old time.
He wasn't feeling good that day either.
He had a sore throat. So, I don't know if he was, you know, going through all the cold sweats and everything like it was portrayed in the movie, but...
Are you sick or is it a demon? I need to know which one it is. You know what I mean?
I mean, it could be a little bit of both, you know, if you are feeling symptoms of sickness, it's
That makes you wonder, though.
for...
Think about it. Like, let's just play devil's advocate for a minute. If a demon is interjecting itself into him, is it going through his throat?
I don't know.
Like a possession. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why is the day he stabbed him, he's sick in his throat? And then he says he doesn't remember. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Orifices, okay? Cover your orifices.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so at that point in the movie, Arnie becomes, like, just overwhelmed to the point where he's ready to just pass out because he's so exhausted and sick. And he has this moment where he hallucinates and sees Alan attacking Debbie.
Right.
And that's when he kind of blacks out. But
Alan's a landlord.
Alan is a landlord.
He thinks he's seeing
Alan
attacking Debbie.
His fiance.
Or,
yeah.
like, I don't know if you want to say sexually molesting or maybe flirting. I don't know what you want to say.
Possibly.
Maybe both, maybe not.
Well, actually, Alan Bono is gay.
Well, that solves that mystery.
Yeah, so there was no alleged affair.
Okay, what the hell? Why aren't they sharing that then? Because in the movie, they make Alan look out to be like he's this drunk, raging alcoholic who, like, wants to hit it with Debbie.
Well, maybe only the immediate family knew that. I don't know. I guess it all depends. Yeah, because a lot of these interviews that they did, where
of course,
all of this
okay, wait,
is
you're right.
exposed, it doesn't
You're talking
come
about
out.
the 80s being gay. You're right. You would have definitely wanted to stay in the closet at that time, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Small town, too.
No, well, Catholic? Oh my God, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, so in the movie, that's what Arnie sees. Arnie thinks that he's attacking his fiancée, so he starts to black out, and then he has a vision of Alan attacking him.
Becoming the beast, kind of, in a way.
So in self-defense, that's when Arnie pulls out his knife and just defends himself.
Goes to town, right.
In real life, there's
holes again.
There's a lot of holes. There's a couple different stories that have gone around.
I assume there's holes. This is just my opinion, because Shaylee and I have been trying to pick this apart. I think that there's holes because they don't want Arnie to look guilty.
Definitely.
Not that it matters now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
the
he's
deed is
already
done.
served his time. It's over, you know? But go ahead, I'm sorry.
So, in real life story now, it's not just Alan, Arnie, and Debbie at the scene. Arnie's two younger sisters were also there. So again, they were all friends. They were just having a good old time. They all went out to lunch, had some drinks.
Drinking.
Alan, when they tested his alcohol level, and he tested at 0.3. Arnie tested at 0.1. So he wasn't as drunk as...
0.1 is about... 0.08 is the legal limit for driving. Arnie was at 0.1, so he was just barely above the legal limit. Alan, however, was 3 times the legal limit. So he'd been throwing him back.
Yes. So the story is they went out to lunch, had a good time, and then they came back to the apartment. They were just hanging out, listening to music. And then Debbie left to go get pizza, and then they came back. They noticed that Alan was starting to get belligerent and...
Turning up the music. Obnoxious.
Yeah, just being obnoxious,
Being a drunk.
belligerent, being a drunk. So they wanted to leave. They all wanted to leave. And, you know, Arnie is only 19 at the time. He's still pretty young. And his 2 younger sisters are there. So I believe one of them is 15 and one of them is 9. So they go to leave, and Alan doesn't want them to leave. So he grabs Deb. And that's when Arnie...
Blacks out. Sees this demon.
Arnie literally blacks out to the point where his eyes turn black, and Deb even says that his teeth change.
Yes.
Yeah.
She said his teeth got sharp.
And in one interview,
It's
Deb...
like Beyonce on TikTok.
Sasha Fierce. Sasha's coming out.
P.S. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this. There's this conspiracy going around that it's all over TikTok. If you haven't seen it, where are you? Get out from under the rock you're living in. But supposedly Beyonce is now possessed by a demon. I don't think that. I think she's just a reptilian. But anyway, that's all I have to say about that. So that's a viral video.
Reptilian.
Sasha Fierce is out there.
Sasha Fierce. So Ellen goes to grab Deb. Arnie gets upset, blacks out, and that's kind of when
There's
the
a couple
shit show
versions,
starts.
There's
Yeah.
some say that Alan, the landlord, grabbed his sisters.
Mary, the youngest one.
And then he got mad, and some say that Alan may have pulled a knife or something on Arnie. There's a few different versions of the story, and we cannot infinitely find which one's accurate.
Yeah, we don't exactly know, and I don't think that we will ever
Until
know.
Kat goes to Connecticut to request the records. It's fine. You know.
Until Kat goes and talks to the locals.
Oh, literally, oh my god. They're probably like, we don't talk about that anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. And this was the first murder in that town.
Yes.
Like, ever.
Which, another strange fact, there was another murder-suicide that
same
happened
night.
that same night about a half hour away.
So maybe that's where they got that extra story in the movie of the murder-suicide.
Oh, yeah,
the girl
maybe.
killed the girl. So we need to research that, too. Then she, like, threw herself off a cliff. That was the movie version. So, anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if that's based on
Yeah.
that part is based on a true story.
We'll have to dig it up.
Either way, Alan is belligerent. Arnie gets upset, and at
Yeah,
one
it's
point,
a fact they were both drunk. Alan was much more drunk than Arnie was. It's a
Yeah.
fact. That was their blood toxicology.
At one point, Deb looks at Arnie, and she's afraid that Arnie's going to attack her. So Arnie and Alan start getting into it, and this is where the story is very blurred because none of the girls who were there saw him pull out a knife.
They don't know where he got the knife from.
They don't know where he
They're
got
outside
the
on the
knife.
lawn right in front of the kennel house because they're fighting because the two of them are getting ready to leave. It's 6:30 p.m. at night, February 16th of 1981. February is winter time still, so it could get dark early potentially.
Yeah.
So maybe they didn't see what was going on. So maybe that's why the
Possibly.
story is so blurred, is because no one really knew what was. And
Plus
things
the
like that
adrenaline.
happen so fast. Yeah, it does.
And when you do have paranormal experiences, it's almost like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, mhm.
It's like it's almost like you're meant to forget.
Yep.
You know?
Your brain's like, wait, I don't know what
And
it
they're
is.
so young that anything could really have happened in that moment. And I think the younger girls testified and said that they did see him pull out a knife, and then they retracted the statement. So there's something going
Well,
on.
and with a
that.
9-year-old and a 15-year-old, I don't know if that you can believe their statements, unfortunately. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because also when police sometimes coerce you into thinking things, too. I'm sorry not to be that person of
Exactly.
a conspiracy
Yeah, they
theorist,
do.
but they do. They'll say, oh, well, did you know he had a knife? And then like, oh, well, I saw him pull out a knife. And you're like, then the story's like muffled. So you really don't know what the truth was, what people saw. And when things happen so fast, there was something on some show I saw one time where they were testing people by like doing crimes in front of them randomly, and then they would pull them aside and pretend like it was police asking them questions about what they witnessed, and it was so jumbled.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even know what they saw because like your adrenaline messes up your brain functioning literally. You don't know what you're seeing. It's dark. There's a fight happening. You don't really know what to witness. They would ask them what color shirt were they wearing, and it was not even right. They were
Yeah.
like off in left field.
Yeah.
And especially being a kid, I think that wouldn't be the best testimony.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even Deb, she doesn't exactly know where
Yeah,
the
even
knife
Deb.
came from. It was like she was with with Arnie's oldest sister, the 15-year-old. She was with her breaking up the fight, and they did break up the fight successfully, but they didn't realize that Alan had been stabbed.
Yep.
They just saw him on the ground gasping for air, and then realized that he had blood all over him. And at that time, Arnie was like, I'm out.
But they didn't even see Arnie leave.
Yeah.
They don't even know where he went. They literally, like, did he go in the house? They don't know. They didn't know he stabbed. They didn't know what happened. They're attending to Alan on the ground.
Alan has about 4 to 5 stab wounds in his chest, and what's really bizarre is that they were almost like perfect, like
Symmetrical.
incisions
Like symmetrical incisions.
in a rectangle.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's weird. When the police showed up, the youngest,
The one
Mary-
wound that killed him, too, I was reading about this because I saw one of the reports on when they did the examination. One of the wounds didn't look that bad from the outside, but the knife had cut him from the bottom of his stomach through his diaphragm to his heart. Yeah. So it was just, there was so much bleeding.
like
And let's be real, in the 80s, surgery and I don't even know if this day and age you can do a wound that big and bleed out and be saved from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so Alan didn't die right there on the spot. He actually died while he was in the hospital.
911 was called. Ambulance came in. They picked him up. Alan died about an hour later. So now, in the meantime, the police are looking for Arnie. Somebody reports seeing someone down, like, in this bush area underneath one of the bridges. A cop goes down there to find him, but he has no weapon. They find Arnie, like, scuffling through the bushes, and he's headed on foot back to Deb's mom's house.
Which was less than a mile away.
Which they don't even live there anymore. So what are you doing? So the police find him, and he's, like, covered in blood, obviously. This cop stops him, and he has no weapon. He's like, put your hands up, and he's like, what did you do? Because he's covered in blood. And he's like, Arnie's like, I can't remember. He didn't resist at all.
Yeah.
But he kept saying, like, what happened? They put him under arrest, take him to the police department. That's when they find out that Alan Bono died an hour later. And that is also when they start questioning Arnie, and he's completely dazed and confused, they said.
Arnie was shocked.
He was in shock,
They told him, you know, like, did you murder Alan Bono? And he's like, what? I would never do that. Like, we were friends. I would never do that. He's like, no,
I didn't. He said, no, I didn't. He wasn't really denying it. He's just like, I wouldn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
But now, this is something else I want you to add in. Arnie was found wearing David's shoes.
Yes. So apparently...
David's the 11-year-old.
David is the 11-year-old.
Arnie was found wearing David's shoes. What?
Yeah. I mean, I don't exactly know how tall each of them were, if they had the same shoe size, what that was, but David's older brother, Carl, who is just a few years older than him, he apparently put axle grease in Arnie's shoes, so he wasn't able to wear them that day. So Lorraine believes that the demon came directly through the shoes.
Through the shoes from David.
Yes.
So they need to burn all of David's clothes.
Yes.
His entire wardrobe.
But what's really, really bizarre is the cops showed up to the scene, and Mary, the youngest, was like, why is the knife glowing? The knife was glowing a fluorescent green color.
But only Mary could see it.
No, they could all see it.
They could all see it.
But Mary was the one that noticed.
How weird.
Yeah. And another thing
there
on
was
top
no
of that
fingerprints
was
on
there was
it.
no fingerprints.
Mind blown.
And that was Arnie's knife.
But how could they... I don't even get it. I don't even know. Because obviously there was blood on it because they just stabbed Alan.
Yeah, I guess the devil in Connecticut wanted
Made him
his 15 minutes of fame.
So Arnie's like said, no way, I didn't kill anyone. I know I didn't.
Arnie was also found with slash marks all over his chest.
And I think he had some on his back. They said he had some on his back. And it was in a position where they were like, was it self-defense? Did you get in a fight with him? Was it from that? And like, once again, the story of them fighting on the lawn is so blurred. There's two kids that basically saw it and Deb, and it was dark out and no one really knows what happened. Could it have been Alan that scratched? Nobody really knows. But but Deb said she never saw Alan turn around. I'm sorry, she never saw Arnie turn around where Alan could have scratched him on the back. And it was in a position he couldn't have scratched himself. So it is strange. It is strange. And once again, when I first started reading about this, these details, and once again, what we're talking about right now, this is all straight from the mouths of the people that were there. So I will believe what they're saying. But these details aren't in other stories. So when you finally get the full story, you're like, okay, paranormal-wise, this makes a little bit of sense here. Yeah. So Deb also said that when I looked at Arnie, he wasn't Arnie. Black eyes and his facial expressions had even changed. She also said that his face changed shape, had sharp teeth, and Arnie had a knife and stabbed him 4 or 5 times. Yeah, that's intense. Lorraine said she believes that the demon was waiting for the right moment to present itself.
And it did.
And it wanted to punish Arnie for basically trying to threaten him to remove him from David. And that Arnie got angry, not only when he challenged the demon, but when he got mad at Alan. And it basically the demon wanted to make him suffer, and so sort of the devil made Arnie pay, is what Lorraine said verbatim.
Mm-hmm.
There was also a cemetery across the street from the kennel.
Yeah, there
Why
is.
is that not talked about? That's a highway of energy right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe giving it away to people.
So now there's a
Yeah.
lawyer that gets involved. Ed and Lorraine find this lawyer and tell the lawyer, hey, this is what happened. We have proof of the actual exorcisms that went on. They were recording, Jesus, they're recording all these possessions. I wish I had those tapes, man. And all Arnie kept saying is, I don't remember. Lorraine swears up and down that it was not Arnie. She's like, I know it was not him. And I still found her genuine even in the interviews. Did you find her genuine saying that?
Mm-hmm.
So did I.
Yeah.
I really feel like Lorraine was just, like, really cares for people.
Yeah.
I don't really think Lorraine even cared for, like, the quote fame. I think that was more of, like, Ed's gig. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think Lorraine just felt like she was here doing, like, what she was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, it was sort of the perfect storm because they also talk about before this happened, and they said, quote, the devil made him do it, and that's what was, like, the full name of the media circus surrounding this. 2 years prior, the movie The Exorcist came out. So people were already on edge. People were literally running out of the theater when The Exorcist was played, throwing up, because they thought it was so repulsive.
Well, I think The Exorcist came out in 73.
No, was it?
I think so.
I thought on there they said it was, like, 2 years before. Let's look it up.
I think it was 73.
Yeah, 73.
So
Okay.
it was still kind of fresh in
I'm
everyone's
sure.
memory.
Yeah, people were still probably afraid of it. Wow,
And-
to date, the box office for The Exorcist is $441.3 million.
Wow.
My God. Just for pea soup, man.
Deb was also gifted a Ouija board early on in her life. And she would...
Did she mess with it?
She was messing with it by herself, yeah.
Makes you wonder if that house kind of sort of called her.
So or if it was just the family.
Like, connected to it.
Mm-hmm.
So they found this lawyer that did it pro bono, which means low income without charge. The lawyer bought into it. He went over to the Warrens' house. He experienced Annabelle and the other things. And he obviously got the tapes of David being possessed. And Deb says that when the actual stabbing took place, that he was also growling.
Oh, right.
He also explained, she also explained Arnie as, quote, the Incredible Hulk with enormous power, and he wasn't able to be stopped, which is why she was afraid he was going to come after her.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when this was dubbed Demon Trial and the Devil Trial, and Media Circus was completely around it. And then this is when Ed and Lorraine are even heavily now involved, because obviously they found the lawyer to take the case, and now Ed and Lorraine are doing media coverage on the case while Arnie's sitting in jail. So I think that probably made them look kind of bad. Because they did another interview I was watching, and they were like, oh, if we could prove in a court of law that paranormal exists, like, that's all we need. You know, like, that'll, like, set us free.
Well, I think Lorraine was working with the police department at that
She
time,
was.
too.
She was. But Ed was, an opportunist. That's what I'm going to keep calling him, because he was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now fast forward, now we're in October 28th of 1981. So obviously the stabbing took place in February, and now we're at the court hearing. Apparently there was a bunch of paranormal stuff that was surrounding the court hearing that nobody talked about. In fact, one of the jurors' sons got hit by a car.
Mm-hmm.
And there was other stuff that happened, and they were, like, literally calling Ed and Lorraine for help because
Oh, the lights were
they
flickering
felt like
in the
they were being
courtroom.
punished for being jurors by, like, this energy. The lights were flickering, the doors were opening and slamming shut. They could hear weird, evil things happening inside of the courtroom. Arnie's attorney got up to start the process of saying, look, my client is guilty or not guilty by reason of whatever. And before he even said anything, the judge said, stop. You're not allowed to use demonic possession in this case. I've already heard, your predicament through the media, and the judge said you cannot prove that. So basically he's saying Alan Bono was the aggressor, and 17 hours and 3 days later he was found not guilty. However, the courts did find him and convict him of manslaughter in the first degree. The judge essentially said, the jurors can find you not guilty. However, there was a body and someone has to pay for it. And then the judge sentenced him to 10 to 20 years, and after 5 years for good behavior, he was released. Now you talk about what happened when he was in jail, because I didn't know any of that, because you did extra research on that.
Oh, yeah. Well, Arnie did an interview and said that the judge really wanted to hear him out on the demonic possession, but he just couldn't, you know, so I think that the judge was kind of trying to save himself at
There
the
was
same
a
time,
good statement
not get
that
involved.
I had heard, I think from the lawyer on a different YouTube interview, but the lawyer's case was, and I'm fascinated by it because I love philosophy. The lawyer was like, okay, well, the court of law says, you know, the courthouse is like under God, you know, like you'll respect the judge and respect the jurors, like under God and religion and all this shit, and like the Bible is like used and you swear on the Bible in court. And the lawyer said, well, if you believe in your God so much, then you'll also believe in the devil and that possession exists. And I was like, dang, okay, I like
great
that.
point.
It was a good point.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we've always lived in a society where some people use God and religion as like fear-based and fear-mongering.
Yeah.
You have to do it because God said so or whatever. Okay, well, if your God exists, then so does this. And I was like, dang, that was a really good... I love that.
Yeah.
I love that deep philosophical stuff. You know what I mean? So, go ahead.
So Arnie's fellow inmates were actually afraid of him, and he doesn't really have any recollection of this. He has one memory, and that is he was sitting at a table and he saw a cup fly across the table, and it said, you lose. He heard a voice say, you lose. So that's the only memory that he has of paranormal activity while he was incarcerated. His other cellmates were afraid of him because they would see him levitating around his cell as he was asleep. They would hear growling coming from his cell, and they would also see orbs. So, obviously...
And Arnie never got an exorcism.
He didn't. He was never exorcised, and he was never offered any medical help or psychological help. So, the torment did not end there. It wasn't over for either of them, for Arnie or for David.
And David had another exorcism too that nobody talks about.
Yeah, Arnie was
so
incarcerated.
David's probably like what, maybe 13 by this point or something like that.
Yeah,
12 or 13.
I don't know if it would have happened in 81 or 82.
Well, you're right, 5 years. So that would have been, he could have been as old as what, 15ish, something like that. Somewhere between 11 and 15.
Yeah.
He had another exorcism done.
Yeah, Debbie says that they had to go out of the country to an actual exorcist.
Makes you wonder if it was the archdiocese. So remember that they do not allow you to talk about it publicly.
Well, there you go.
And the reason is they're like, if you want help, you'll shut your mouth. Because they like hide those files. I would love someday, I just want to break into Rome and just, I want to read all. I bet I've heard they have just so much stuff hidden in there.
Yeah.
Kat's the same. She's like, let's go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure that was probably what it was. So,
Yeah.
And David doesn't do interviews. He was the kid that was obviously first involved. He supposedly lives a quiet, secretive life no one knows about. He has literally never done an interview ever. Period.
Would you?
I would be afraid people would make a mockery of me, honestly. Especially at 11, you know, like you have enough trauma as it is. Yeah, I was possessed by a demon. Sorry, I'm a little stressed here. Just leave me alone. Who knows if he still has paranormal activity to this day? You don't know.
I would be afraid that talking about it would invite it back.
No, that once that energetic highway is like created, I don't think it just goes away. Okay.
So David had the exorcism out of the country, and Deb knew that exorcism worked because things were flying around, going crazy, just
she
like
did say it
just
worked,
like at the house.
supposedly. I'm assuming if it was at the archdiocese, it may not have even been a one-day thing. It may have been like a week-long extra. Like we don't know what goes on behind closed doors.
She said that like everything was happening just like it was when they were performing the exorcisms at home. All the windows of the church blew out, and once that exorcism was completed, everything was peaceful. And in that moment, she knew that it worked.
It worked. So, that's the true story behind it. So before we move on to the next piece, because that's going to be controversial. Oh my God, do we need a break in between? Like, woo! What, do you think possession or not possession, whether you believe he was possessed or not, I don't really know where I stand on the possession, to be honest with you. I did see interviews of Arnie, and I don't find him to be a murderer. just reading his energy. Like, I've watched Charles Manson, he's psychotic. I've watched John Wayne Gacy, and, you know, I've watched Ted Bundy, like, psychotic. Like, I don't know, there's something in their eyes where you just know something's off. And watching Arnie...
He seems very soft-spoken.
Humble. I know that sounds weird, but whatever. Do you think that 5 years was fair, considering he took another life?
I don't know.
I don't. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I think if you do the crime, you do the time, ho. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry, but, like, I'm sorry you were possessed, but Jesus, you still, like, stabbed someone till they died. You know what I mean?
True.
Like, I don't know.
He had good behavior, though. That's how he got out.
Yep, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, what do you do? But that poor soul, Alan's, like, crossed over now, so I don't know. It's interesting. I do think it was a perfect storm still. They were in a full Catholic community, all very religious. They said that half the community believed they needed to just pray for Arnie. The other half said, no, he murdered somebody. He needs to go to jail. The Exorcist had come out. It freaked people out. All of a sudden now it's a real life thing happening in your own community after you just saw it on TV. Like, you want to believe it.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's religious, you know, like they believe in religion. So I just think it was just the perfect storm. Ed and Lorraine happened to be involved. They happened to be in the area. I just think it was just the perfect storm, how it unfolded. I will say there's pictures of Arnie being hauled into, like, jail and court, and his eyes look awfully dark in those photos. I know they're black and white, but I don't know if you saw him, but his eyes look black in those photos. Even Kat was like, something doesn't look right in those photos around the trial. So I don't know.
It's probably residual lingering energy.
What happens to this day?
Especially if things were happening in the courtroom.
That was interesting.
Still there.
That was compelling, especially the jurors' families getting involved. I thought that was interesting. That makes sense to me, though, because when you're dealing with something super dark or even paranormal in general, if you get people or peoples involved, it's not going to just be one person that's experiencing it. So that was my original frustration with this case, was I was like, how is this one person or persons, such as David and or Arnie, so secluded to these paranormal activities? There's no way other people didn't experience it. And then when they're like, oh no, they did, I was like, okay, I believe it now. I get it now. You know what I mean?
I mean, everyone in the family was experiencing it because things were levitating and being thrown at them. So they all suffered.
I would slap my child with a Bible on the forehead. You know what I'm saying? Jesus. Demon be released.
Oh, let's talk about the well.
Let's talk about the well, but there's two more things I want to talk about first. One is the priest. Was it a father or a priest in the movie? Anyway, he looks exactly like the priest from Scary Movie. The one that's on the toilet that's praying his sins away.
It's gotta be him.
I could not, in the movie when we were in there, I was laughing the whole time. And Shaylee's like, what's wrong? I was like, do you remember Scary Movie? And she was like, the priest? I was like, yes. She's like, oh my God, I think it's this. It looks like the priest that's taking a shit on the toilet, praying for his demons to be released. Like, it looks like the same one.
And he looks exactly like the actual priest as well.
Couldn't take it serious. Couldn't. I was just like, you lost me. I'm gone. You lost me. The well is fine, but the last thing I want to add too real quick is we just found out today, like 20 minutes before we got on here, which is why we were late. Debbie just died like a matter of weeks ago, like late April. And she had cancer. And she said that she was still experiencing strange activity. Yeah. She is married to Arnie. She got married to Arnie while he was in prison. They never had children together. She did have a child from a previous relationship. But she was still experiencing, she said it was never going to go away and it was always going to be attached to them. And she got cancer and died. It just makes you wonder. She was older. She was like in her mid-late 60s. But still, she just died, guys. Like, how is it that she dies weeks before this movie comes out?
Yeah. And
weeks before this stream happens?
Yeah, she thinks that it's generational and that it's going to torment her family forever. But they have such strong faith that they have to, continue to practice that to keep it away.
It's shocking. Absolutely shocking.
It's sad.
Okay,
really
the
sad.
well. This is another part of the story that is a little holy, but it's been confirmed, but it's still a little holy here.
Yeah, when you know about the well, you can kind of see how it's tied into the movie, but it's not straightforward.
Right.
The well. So at the rental house, there was a well deep in the backyard, and nobody apparently knew that that well was there except for David. David said that the old man is coming from the well. Well, eventually Arnie went to the house to go find this well, and he basically became possessed in that moment. He fell into a trance, his eyes turned black, and when Debbie noticed, Debbie slapped him in the face, grabbed a
See, I'm
rosary.
telling you, slap him with the Bible, you'll be fine.
Yeah, she slapped his ass, grabbed a rosary, and was like, "We're leaving."
So is the well at the rental property, or we don't really know yet, do we?
I guess it was at the rental
It
property.
would be considered at the
because
rental.
that's where the old man had come from.
We've got to find that address. We're going to have to go there.
I'm just gonna stop at every person's house
Well,
and
then
ask them if they
Newton,
have a well in the
Connecticut is
backyard.
also where... No, that's Sandy Hook. Right? Sandy Hook is where the shooting happened.
Sandy Hook.
Didn't
is
something
in-
else happen in Newton, Connecticut, or am I wrong?
That's the Sandy Hook.
It is Sandy Hook. Okay, so that's weird. So Kat must be right. There
It's
must be some
Connecticut.
weird energy in there.
Well, then one of the articles also said that they've been finding Indian burial grounds that are very shallow in the ground.
I mean,
So there's that. It's super old.
I would agree with that. You don't want to mess
It's
with
just-
my family has always said that too.
There's
Like,
just
even
so
as your
much history.
own native land, don't ever disrespect it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, those people were forced off of their properties and they cursed the land. I mean, my family would, if you sat with my grandma, she'd be like, "Oh yeah, we cursed the land. We cursed the land on purpose. Like, if your crops don't grow, it's for a reason. If your cattle dies, it's for a reason.
Not saying don't move to Connecticut, but
Don't move to Connecticut." You know what
protect yourself before you go.
I mean? Yeah, that'll be interesting. That's why I told Kat, I was like, I don't want you to drive in there alone. Like, it's gonna, just wait. You know what I mean? Okay, so now, this is controversial. Do we need a minute? How are you feeling? Are you okay?
Let's go.
My God, I think I'm gonna die. Woo! This is a stream, okay? This is the way to bring Shaylee in, okay? Like, thank God you have a history with history, because this is a lot. I'm like, Kat was like, this is going to be big. I was like, I know.
I love it. I will go to the end of the earth
We're
to
like halfway
get
through
all
here.
the facts.
Whoa. This is going to be rough. I just need a minute. I need some, like, interlude music. I need Kat to sing for a second. Oh, man.
Let's say a prayer.
I mean, we're going to piss somebody off with this one, but that's fine. I'm going to piss off Zach. I'm already prepared to say it. He's probably listening. Here we go. Wouldn't be the first time. All right. Wouldn't be the first time. Okay. The rocking chair.
Oh,
Okay.
wait. Jaden said James Woods.
Who's James Woods?
Is he from Newtown? I don't know. I've never heard that name.
I mean, I'll look up James Woods, but that sounds like a very generic name. Can you tell me what that's related
Woods.
to? James Woods, actor? Is that what you're talking about? American actor and producer. He was born in Utah, so I'm not sure if that's who you're talking about.
I don't know.
If
Might have
it's-
to elaborate on that.
Yeah, the only thing that comes up is an actorio.
Hmm.
Oh, James Woods, the priest. Yes.
Oh.
Yes, he was the priest in Scary Movie. Yes, on the toilet. That is exactly who I'm talking about.
God. Okay,
I
well
send-
that
I send
answers
that
that.
GIF to like the group chat all the time. When someone's like, "We need a priest," I always send that GIF. Woo! Yes, that was.
Okay.
That scene is
Scary movie.
Chef's kiss divine. Okay,
Yeah.
like absolutely
Okay.
divine.
So nothing to do with Newtown. Just
We're both like,
clarification on the
who's
priest.
James Woods? Is that the demon? Jesus. That was how we've been all week. We're like, because there's just so many like stories and conspiracies around this story.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, we need to know like what actually happened. I feel like there's still more. I would love someday, like when we are filming on the East Coast, to drive through Connecticut and stop at the police station or the courthouse and see if we can obtain the records. It's got to be there still. It may not be digitally, but it's got to be there. Swoon my way in, throw somebody a couple $100 to get it for me.
I tried looking online through like
They're probably
court
the
files, and
80s. I
there's really
doubt.
nothing.
Yeah, I doubt from the
I don't
80s.
know if they would even make them available to the public with the backstory and all of the hype around
you know, here's the only thing I'm going to add on to it, and I'll just get off my soapbox, but just let me be on it for a minute. If Tony Spera loves money so much off the Warrens, Why isn't he releasing this paperwork to us as paranormal investigators? Because we would pay money for the shit. Put it in a book. Put it in a case files book. Something. You know what I mean? Like Tony Sparrow likes that green. So if you want to get that bag, we would like to see it.
Potentially be held responsible legally if he does that, though.
I don't think you could be at this many years later.
No.
Because even the conservatorship of Britney is like all public. You know what I mean? So I don't think it would matter. Come on, Tony. Do us a favor rather than bitch about everything all the time. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
Oh, and also, very quickly...
Now Shaylee's on one. And also, I'm on a soapbox.
Just in the whole Connecticut area. So, like, there's Brookfield, and then Newtown is, what, like 20 minutes away? And then there's also a natural preserve that's about a half hour away from that called Devil's Preserve.
Wait, I'm
So there's
sorry.
a recurring theme going on here. Along with the murder-suicide that happened
But
30 minutes away.
I found the address of Deb's mom's house. We found the address. There are images of shapeshifters in the windows.
Oh yeah, that was creepy.
We've all seen those. I'm not giving out the address publicly. If you want to find it, you'll have to dig it up.
Yeah.
But we found photos of Deb's mother's house, which is where technically the possession took place. It's not where the demon came from. But if you look at the windows, there's some images in there. You know what I'm saying? You just gotta zoom in a little bit of some images. So I'm just saying there's something wrong with Connecticut. It's like a portal or something.
Yeah.
Elfie says probably in an old dusty file box in the basement of the courthouse. Yeah, I agree. Look, you don't have to look for it. We're just gonna send Elfie in there because she's a genius and she'll find it. She'll come out in 5 minutes. I got it. We're good to go. Let's go. Unless the case was sealed. I doubt it was sealed if it was such a public event and all the media. Honestly, let's be real. With all of those people and the movie being involved, they probably made a lot of tourism off of it.
Oh.
Think about it. Even like the media going there to stay for the case, they probably made tourism off of it. There's probably paranormal investigators to this day going there just to experience the energy. I would.
That dog kennel's booming, I bet.
It's still standing. Yep, the dog kennel's still standing, which is where the apartments were standing. The only place that we have not been able to locate is the rental property, and I am damn well going to find that. But we didn't know that it was in Newton. We thought it was in Brooksfield, which is just right next door. So, anyway, let's get back to pissing off Zach. All right. You worked at the museum. And so you know the rocking chair.
I do know the rocking chair.
I also know the rocking chair.
I also know multiple people who have sat in the rocking chair.
Right. And have they been injured?
No.
Well, just saying. I was in the rocking chair room as well with a couple of my producer friends. They got mad at me because I was like, I just don't sense a whole lot out of it. First of all, let's pause. I think that there is an image of when you talk about an exorcism with a chair, you're going to automatically assume that the said exorcism or exorcisms, meaning multiple, took place in said chair. For the fact, confirmed by the entire family, including Deb, Artie, and Carl even, who sold it, there was no exorcism that took place in said chair.
Right.
Not even a tiny exorcism took place in that chair.
It was just another object that happened to levitate in the house.
Right. Did it levitate, though?
It did.
It did supposedly levitate. Okay, well.
I think Ed witnessed it levitate. He also witnessed it violently rock back and forth.
That's a mood.
Yeah.
Ed said he also, quote, saw the beast release itself from David, and he thought he saw the beast sitting in a chair, supposedly. And then Lorraine Warren did sketches as well after she would see things with her, like, mediumship, whatever, and also pictured the demon sitting in said chair. Okay. But once again, the exorcism did not take place in the chair. I feel like that needs to be very, very, very clear. Okay. Artie was not Artie. David was tied down to a chair for an exorcism. However, it was not that chair. Okay.
That would be difficult. You know,
in a rocking chair, you're like, just rock yourself to sleep. Why are we laughing? Dark humor for you. Welcome to the life of a paranormal investigator. Okay, you listened to a long-ass podcast of Deb. She's now passed. God rest her soul. I hope she's with Jesus. Hope that demon didn't take her to hell. She talked for like 2 or 3 hours about the rocking chair. And do you want to share all that information? Because that was a F-ton of information.
Well, Deb basically said it's a bunch of bullshit. There was one time where a woman had passed out at the museum directly above the rocking chair. So not in the room, she was on the second story, the second level. Just happened to be directly above the room of the rocking chair. She passed out. Zach decided that, enough is enough, too much activity's going on, we're closing down the exhibit.
Which exhibit?
The rocking chair exhibit.
Okay.
Yeah, so Deb specifically said that him closing down the exhibit was just a PR stunt. Because she doesn't think anything is attached to the chair. She admits that one of her siblings was just hurting for some money, and they all laughed at the fact that it was sold to some person for $67,000.
I'm sorry. You were saying that chair was purchased for $67,000?
Yep.
And there wasn't even an exorcism that took place in the chair.
No, there was just stains of holy oil on the chair, which...
Is it holy oil, though? How do you know it's holy oil? I thought they only used holy water.
Well, holy oil doesn't stain. And Deb actually has the vial of holy oil that they used.
So what's on the chair, then?
They think it's Chihuahua piss.
I'm done. I'm done with the day, okay?
We just call it an old, dusty rocking chair, and it continued to sit in the house afterwards. They all sat in the chair and nothing happened.
Now, there has been a couple people that have claimed they've sat in the chair and they've gotten back problems from it.
Yes, but how many people
haven't
had back problems?
Right. And before. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is true. And also, I feel like if you're scared and you're like a believer in it, you're going to manifest it or manifest something.
Yeah.
Now, you and I had a theory that we've talked about. I've talked about it before because I totally believe in this theory. I said that I was at the Stanley Hotel with one of my friends. She was a tour guide there. She was having hundreds of people, if not probably thousands, come through for tours. And she started making up a story in the administrative building that there was a little girl haunting that building. That was the administrative building. There was nothing in there. They would actually sage it often to keep it clear because the people that were working for the Stanley Hotel didn't want to interact with the demons. I don't blame them. Not demons, but ghosts. And after they kept talking about this little girl, a little girl started to manifest. They started to get EVPs of a little girl. And by the way, there aren't children beings really at the Stanley Hotel. Like, you'll find children on the 4th floor because that was the maid's quarters, but that's about it. The administer building is an actual separate building in a whole different area. So I do think that if you tell a story and you put energy is things, you can turn energy into, I think money is energy, literally. You either bring it towards you or repel it. Everything is energy. Every word we say is spells, and you can create anything you want out of said spell or energy. And if you have enough people to believe in that little girl, you're going to manifest a child, 100%. I've seen it happen.
Or you can also just manifest entities. You call upon your angels appear for you.
Right.
You call upon the beast may show up.
Right, exactly.
So I don't think that he's
You're
permanently
creating
attached
an
to
energetic
that chair,
highway.
Exactly.
By saying that it's there and connecting it to it.
Yeah.
So, do you think that the beast is in that chair or in the museum?
No, the beast is probably fucking off somewhere, and every time they talk about it, he's like, hold up. I'll be right back.
Yeah, creating the energy. He's like, oh yeah, I wanted to show up. Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
Let me show you what I can do, right? Like, scare you. Do you think he's like hanging out there daily? I think he has other things to do. If he has 43 demons he's chilling with, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, the museum has kind of turned into somewhat of a portal, I think. So they could be lingering and hanging out. They could be somewhere else.
Are you scared of it, the chair?
No.
Me neither. I was in there and my friends were with me, and they were like listening to the exorcism tapes freaking out, and I was like stone cold, no facial expression. They were like, why aren't you scared? And I was like, because it's not scary.
Yeah.
I think the Dybbuk box room is dark. I think there's something demonic in there for sure. You've said the same thing. You agree.
Mm-hmm.
Peggy would cause people, the haunted doll would cause people in your group to have nosebleeds. You heard your name come through the spirit box. I don't know if she's demonic, but she's predominant.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the rocking chair goes, I don't sense anything. Personally.
No. And
You're right. There could be something that comes and goes as it pleases, but that's with anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, think it's hanging out in there? No.
No.
If it's got a whole town to wreak havoc through, that bedroom or room it's in is not enough.
I don't think so, no. What really freaked me out, though, was seeing the chair and listening to the tapes of David, because then it really puts the story into perspective, and you're like, oh shit, this actually happened. Like, you when you see the object and you hear the tape playing, you kind of teleport yourself to that moment and kind of, like, picture yourself at that house with them when they are performing those exorcisms.
But that's sad, because that's you connecting to the child, not necessarily the chair.
No, not
not
really.
the demon. You know what I mean? It's more of like, oh my god, this poor child went through this trauma. Sort of like having a severed head hanging around.
Yeah. So, I mean, I did have an experience with the chair that I think I mentioned here, where I was, we were practicing presenting the room before. Yeah, we were practicing, as tour guides, we were practicing presenting the room before the exhibit opened, and I was with all of my friends, so we were just kind of joking around, and I looked back at my notes, and they just completely disappeared. So, electrical problems. When Zach was setting up the room, I think the display door just opened by itself, and I think it ended up breaking, like they had to rewire it or something like that. It was kind of bizarre, but I don't think
energetic highway for sure.
Yeah, I don't think that it's permanently there. And David, because they said that the beast was always seen sitting in the chair. So when Arnie provoked it, David was under possession. He was mocking Arnie, saying like, oh yeah, he's sitting in the chair.
Right.
He's over there in the chair. And then Ed said that he saw it in the chair, and he saw the chair levitate and violently rock back and forth, but the chair itself isn't really significant when you take all these other objects into consideration that were being thrown around the house. Belt buckles were being thrown around the house, dishes were being thrown.
Now the
makeup
haunted
bag
shoes,
was thrown at Judy.
Obviously, that there's a theory behind the haunted shoes. Which the haunted shoes are where Lorraine says that she thinks the energy attached itself even easier to Arnie because he was borrowing David's shoes.
Yeah.
Who has those shoes?
I believe Lorraine does, yeah.
Well, she's passed now. But
she doesn't have the knife, though.
Yeah, the knife's probably in police custody, I assume. So, I don't know. It's interesting. That's very interesting.
It is.
So, there's the rocking chair. Final thoughts on this whole thing?
I feel for David. It's really sad that he had to live his childhood as being possessed.
It's true. If you really think about this from, like, a different perspective, like, okay, Arnie got off after 5 years. Good for you, bro. Like, that was a lucky call.
Yes.
Happy for you. I don't think everybody would be able to do that. You know what I mean? But you got your life back, and Alan's dead, and that's the way it is. Now, on the flip side, David's sitting here completely silent, hasn't said anything in actual years. And the honest-to-God truth is, how many people are actually profiting off of his exorcisms?
Well, I hope that he's getting a cut of it.
I doubt it.
I really hope that he is, because he's like a huge player in all of this.
I mean, the Warrens made money from the books, then they made money from these movies. Then you have Tony Sparrow stepping in with Judy, who's getting pretty much all of the inheritance from that. Then you have Carl, the brother, out of nowhere, selling this random chair for $67,000. He made some money off of his own brother's exorcisms. I mean, it's messed up.
Yeah, so he sued the Warrens and the author.
Carl did
In 2006. And then later, what year did he sell the chair?
It wasn't too long ago.
It wasn't. So maybe like 2018 or 19? 2018 or 19, he sold the chair along with like a couple of rosaries from the house and some paintings that Lorraine had given the family. So Carl was never really involved in helping the family with David.
He made a mockery out of his brother, but he's making money off of him.
He became involved when it benefited him, and he needed to make a buck off of these haunted items, even though he didn't believe that David was possessed in the first place. So you're gonna say that these people are causing your little brother to, you know, basically go through living hell and then sell these items as being haunted.
And
so
Deb
which one
said,
is it?
my brother Carl is a businessman.
Yeah,
And
she
he's
admits
smart.
he's a good businessman.
And he was able to convince somebody stupid enough to buy this rocking chair for a lot of money. And honestly, let's be real, though, $67,000 ain't gonna go that far. It's not. It's expensive to live. Inflation happens. I mean, maybe not in a small town. We don't know. But, I mean, $67,000 isn't really that much. But I guess if you're just selling a single item as a chair, yeah. Poor David. I feel bad for two people in this, and it's David and Alan. Yeah. Alan lost his life, and David is the one that... I mean, honestly, the whole thing is strange to me. I really don't know how... Did you hear something just fall?
Mm-mm.
I thought I heard something fall. It was through the microphone.
Oh.
I could hear it through there.
Oh, no.
It sounded like something got thrown against the wall. I swear to God, I just saged. I'm not even going to do this again. I'll sage again. But,
One more for safe measure.
Alan lost his life, and then you have Artie, who committed the murder. Artie got off, basically, for good behavior. I mean, most people who murder people are in prison for life or 30 years. And the only reason he got off so easily was, yes, good behavior, but also at the expense of his wife's little brother's exorcism. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone around David has benefited off of this. Talk about a bunch of energy vampires. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, but including the Warrens. Like, I understand they want to make this case public, like, for research purposes, whatever. But literally, everyone is benefiting off of a torture and torment of a child, and it kind of makes me want to vom.
Yeah, I know that Judy, her wish was that Debbie got this story out because she wanted people to know, like, this is real. Mm-hmm. Like, these demons and spirits are real. Mm-hmm. So I feel as if Debbie probably did take David into consideration and let him live a private life, but still possibly, hopefully, shared the wealth with him. But still, it is sad. It is sad to have that
the story that you need to hear from, whatever the perspective, is David, and not a soul has heard that perspective yet.
No.
He I don't know if you even offered him $1 million if he would come out at this point, because he's definitely kept himself in private and in hiding for quite a while. He would be, what, about 55-ish, somewhere in there, 56-ish, somewhere in there, because he was 11 in 81. So that's about 15 years older than me. So he'd be about...
It's like 51 or 2.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Dang. I don't know. That's the tea. And poor David's out there somewhere, and I hope he's not suffering. I hope he's able to live a better life after what he went through, because the one thing I will say I believe out of all of this is the exorcism tapes. And especially knowing that the Warrens weren't there and Ed wasn't fabricating it to try to make money off of it makes me believe it all that much more.
I believe it.
We'd love to hear you guys. Oh, they had microphone interference.
Yeah, they did hear it.
Interesting. That's the tea. That's all I got. 2.5 hours. Whew, I told you it's going to be a rough one. I knew it. It was good,
There was a lot to unpack.
Yeah, we'd love to hear what you guys think on social media. Yeah, that's a lot. And I still feel like, honestly, there's still holes in this story. And I don't think until somebody like Elfie gets a hold of the documents, because that's all she wants. Elfie's so funny. She's like, I would love to see the documents on that, please. Like, the actual documents. Yeah. Like, I think until somebody can unpack it with the actual documents and talk to David about his experience, no one's really going to know the whole story. The sickening part was, I was like, oh my God, wouldn't it be so cool to go there and film with Debbie? But now Debbie's dead.
Yeah, Debbie's gone.
So we
I
would
hope Arnie is okay, because if Debbie said that it's generational and it was still like sort of tormenting their family and they have to protect themselves, like I hope that nothing else happens to Arnie.
And he's living by himself now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope that David can, continue to live that private life that he...
It looks like David's still in the area, possibly. Because we did research
I don't
him.
know where he would have...
Yeah, it's true.
gone.
Like, especially when you're from a small town like that, you're just scared to move out of said small town because you only know your family. You know what I mean? But, oh my god, this poor kid. Everyone's benefiting. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe future location for Ghost Girl Diaries. After the amount of stress that we were under this week doing research, we damn well should go there because we know most of it. You know what I mean? But, yeah, the movie was good. If you're an investigator and you want to like see that side of paranormal, I would go see it for sure. I would say that it's a little dark. There's some dark energy attached to it for sure. My opinion on where the dark energy is coming from is not from like the exorcism scenes. I think that the woman that's the Satanist, I don't know how you feel, but it looked to me like legitimate spells that she was doing.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to make it look as real as possible. Mm-hmm. I mean, the spell table, the altar, like everything looked legit. I think that she was... You can't accidentally summon a demon and be like, sorry, it's just for the movies.
No, yeah,
you know
she was
what I mean?
doing it intentionally. And I think that's why they had her dad get involved, because he knew what was going on with her. He knew what she was doing, but he wasn't strong enough to defeat that. It was like, she's been doing this, like, we gotta deal with it.
Yeah, it's... So, leaving the theater, the darkness I felt was from the Satanist that they had in there. Speaking of Satanists, I have some more tea that I should spill. I knew I was supposed to wait for Kat, but I should probably just say it.
The end scene where she loses her life, that's brutal. It's spooky.
Oh, yeah.
It's spooky.
Yeah, where he, like, takes her soul to hell. I was like, yee.
Oh, yeah.
Makes you not want to be a Satanist.
It's like contortionist type.
Speaking of Satanists, yeah, and there's a scene in there that, too, of, like, trigger warning if you've ever been a cutter. It was, Jesus. Yeah. I'm just saying, he tried to kill himself in prison. It was rough. That was very realistic. Kat went to Salem last weekend, and we learned something that we kind of screwed up on. And I always admit when I'm wrong. And essentially, we sort of, she went to the Church of Satan that's in Salem. It's not the, like, Temple of Satan. It's like a house. So the Church of Satan, the house.
I think, isn't it just called the Satanic Temple?
No, that's the other one. That's where we screwed up. There's two separate ones, okay? So, we thought they were all under the same umbrella. Kat has found out otherwise, okay? For some very horrific reasons, by the way. She went to the Church of Satan, who is under Anton LaVey, okay?
Oh, okay.
The Church of Satan... probably not the best one, because I've talked about that there's two types of Satanists, right? And Elfie has two, because we both had friends that are Satanists. So I've talked about there's like good Satanists and then like bad Satanists or whatever. Okay,
I wouldn't consider Anton LaVey one of the good ones.
It's not.
Yeah, no.
Any of them that is ran essentially under Anton LaVey is the not good one. She said she visited the Satanic temple. And it looks like a black house from the outside. It's a black house. So
that's the good one.
No, it wasn't.
No.
It was not. No.
Oh.
It's actually, she said it was very small, so that I think there could be a couple there too. I asked her that. Because I've seen videos of another one that I think it's the okay one, where they advocate for people.
Well, because I went to the one that the black house.
Is it a black house with white trim on it?
I don't know if it has white trim, but I know that there's an art gallery inside. There's a second story, and then there's a room with 2 red chairs. Well,
she went into the one with the art gallery, but they said some really interesting things.
That's the one with the Baphomet statue.
Yes. They told her not to touch the walls and the curtains, and they were promoting, like, events like Lupercalia. And essentially they have sex parties in there, and that's why they told her not to touch the walls and the curtains.
They weren't promoting that when I went there, so...
The temple is the good one, the Church of Satan is the bad one, essentially, is what she's saying. So anyway, we were both in shock from basically the information that they shared with her. So I just want to make sure I put out there so that everybody knows to the fear mongering.
So is this information that you're about to lay out coming from the church or the temple?
The
church?
I'm reading.
The church
Kat's,
is the bad one, right?
She visited the Satanic Temple. The temple is the good one.
Okay.
The church is not.
Okay. So I went to the temple, the good one.
So prepare yourself don't get them screwed up.
Yeah.
Both websites will say they easily get interference, if that makes sense. Any of them ran by Anton LaVey is dark. And we didn't quite know that till she went in there to learn and do some research. So anyway, just beware, because we didn't know that before. Just being honest, we didn't know that. And sex parties and not touching the curtains just doesn't sound like my kind of night, personally. I didn't want to take a black light in there, for sure. No. You know what I'm saying? You never know what's going on.
That's what Anton LaVey was all about.
Yeah, it was. It was true. We just didn't know it was still currently practiced with some of these until you go in and talk to the people. And she got real, upset, and, her stomach got upset. They were like, if there's any doors closed, don't go in them. And she's like, don't worry, I won't. Jesus. So, and then, it kind of makes sense, because we've had some people talk on our, in chat while we were on our podcast before of well, of course, our Church of Satan does, sacrifices. So yeah, under Anton LaVey, probably. So I'm just warning you so that you're aware of which one, because,
Anton LaVey, I don't know if he bought the house or rented a house in San Francisco,
God, Jesus,
and he had just a bunch of orgies there. I think he even had celebrities.
Kat was like, do you check for STDs before you let people in the door? I'd like to know the process. It sounds like Elfie, where she's like, I'd like to have the paperwork, please. Jesus. So anyway, we just wanted to clarify that for anybody out there, so that, little tidbit information, because ooh, that was rough. Church
bad, temple good.
Yeah, temple is the ones that that say that they promote for female rights.
What's his name again?
Anton LaVey.
No, who started the temple?
I don't know. Apparently, the church hates the temple and the temple hates the church. I don't know. That's what she was telling me. So, Jesus, just be clear with what you're doing and where you're going.
I think there was a Netflix documentary about the Satanic Temple, too.
Yes, it was. That was where they do, LGBT rights and all that stuff. So.
Yes.
I just wanted to be clear.
Lucien Greaves. Yeah.
I actually joined the temple.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I just want a card. You can order a card for $20, and I was like, I don't know, makes me feel like I own something from them.
Have services.
They do.
I just don't know.
Well, I just would skip the Lupercalia ones on the church side. You know what I'm saying? Shaylee's like, I don't even know.
Yeah, so if you like dark art, go visit the Satanic Temple. It's pretty interesting. I think they recycle out some pieces from different artists as well. I think they also have a little library area too, where you can sit and read and hang out. You can touch the walls.
I would live there.
It's sanitary. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they have velvet Baroque walls.
Good. Huh? The other place did not.
No.
Sorry.
You can probably touch the walls at the temple. Just
it's enough demons for one day. You know what I'm saying? So on that note, how was your first podcast? We're so happy that you're here.
It was fun.
Good.
It's always fun talking about, morbid curiosities and demonic possessions.
Well, and you like all the girls. We've all been getting along great. And yeah, it's weird. Your vibes attract your tribe for sure, 100%. Yeah. So shout out to Shaylee for being here today. Thanks for everybody for joining. This will be uploaded as a podcast. It'll be uploaded on the YouTube channel as well. What are we at? 2.5 hours. Woo! Jesus. Everybody have a really safe 4th of July. And on July 2nd, which is today, think of poor little David, who started his possession route.
Yeah.
And strange that we accidentally connected the dots on there. That was a total accident. Whoopsie.
Yeah. Rest in peace to Debbie. I do want to give credit where credit's due. Swords of St. Michael YouTube channel. You will find Debbie's interviews about the chair and her marrying Arnie while he was incarcerated on there. Okay. Yeah.
And what was the story behind her marrying Arnie? Do you know? Just he was in prison for 5 years and they decided to get married. They'd been together since they were kids.
I don't know the exact details of the ceremony.
Aww.
Yeah, but there's a couple.
Can't believe she's gone. Can't believe that.
I know, it's really sad. But if it weren't for I feel like she played a huge part in it. If it weren't for
Bring
her
awareness and
yeah,
stuff.
then we wouldn't, have all of these
I wonder who
details.
obtained her journals. I wonder if it's the Archdiocese.
Oh.
Or who has all of the tapes. I'm sure Ed and Lorraine made copies. But yeah, if Tony wants to do some good, release some of that shit. We want to see it. Start a YouTube channel. Just don't host it. We don't want you to host it, okay? That's all. Oh my god. Have a safe 4th of July. Happy 4th of July, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks for
happy
listening
4th
to
of
our
July,
possession.
Independence Day.
Yes. What are you going to do? Anything?
Hang out with my cats.
Mood. Be with my dogs because they get scared.
Oh, fireworks. Yeah, I'm
Thanks,
just going to
guys.
stay up all night because I live close to the Palms,
Ooh.
and I think they let off fireworks.
It's gonna be
I don't
loud.
know if they will
Do your
this year
cats get
because are they
scared?
even open? Yeah, they do.
Do they? My
Yeah.
dogs are like, they
They
freak
get
out.
scared if
I
they
have to
hear a
build
knock
like a
on the
hut
door.
and we just...
Yeah.
I get scared when I hear a knock on the door. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, people.
I'm like, I didn't invite anybody. What do you...
Back from the dead.